Douluo, destroying Yu Xiaogang, I'm invincible. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, A Little Trouble. Unfortunately, Xiao Wuji guessed it right. The property of Invincible is like this. As long as someone helps the person affected by this prop to release the gas, the person who releases the gas will be penetrated by the gas and become the next person affected by Invincible. So some people may ask, what if the victim releases the gas himself? This is a good question. The key is that the affected person will not realize that he has been affected, just like Yu Xiaogang before, and Flanders at this moment. In their own eyes, they are very normal and have no problems. Even if they believe what others say and try to release the gas for themselves, they can't do it. Of course, this prop has far more effects than these. There are other effects. Flanders looked at Yu Xiaogang. What did you say? I said your pectoralis major is really bigger than before. Yu Xiaogang said with a dull face. What's going on? And what does Xiao Wuji mean by just saying that I'm like before? Xiao Wuji looked at him, speechless. So you are still pretending now, right? You seem a little shameless. Can you have some shame? When you had this problem before, you pretended that your eyes were defective and you couldn't see it. Now that Flanders has this problem, you can see it. But you are still pretending to be confused and asking what the previous thing means? Damn, you are the most shameless person I have ever seen. It's just a small matter, can't you just admit it openly? Now that Flanders has been infected, you are still refusing to admit it and pretending? At this moment, Xiao Wuji really felt sorry for Flanders. Flanders frowned, lowered his head, and scanned his body, checked it from front to back, then looked at Xiao Wuji and said, I don't think there is anything wrong with my body. Take off your shirt and take a look. Xiao Wuji said. Flanders frowned and thought for a while, but still listened to Xiao Wuji, and took off his shirt. Duang. Duang. He instantly appeared in front of Xiao Wuji and Yu Xiaogang. Of course, the degree of this moment is not as severe as that of Yu Xiaogang before. Boss, isn't this obvious? Xiao Wuji said. Yu Xiaogang also looked annoyed and said, yes, it's obvious and exaggerated. Flanders, your situation is a bit serious. Xiao Wuji glanced at him sideways and didn't respond. However, Flanders looked annoyed. He lowered his head and looked at his body carefully and said again, there is no problem. No matter how I look at it, there is no problem. Xiao Wuji. How can this be the same as Yu Xiaogang before, refusing to admit it? Why is he so stubborn and refusing to admit it? At this time, Xiao Wuji suddenly had another flash of inspiration in his mind. Could it be that, because this kind of thing happened to them, they couldn't see it or perceive it themselves? Thinking back carefully to Yu Xiaogang's reaction before, when Yu Xiaogang looked down and saw his exaggerated pectoralis major, there was no change on his face or in his eyes, as if there was no change at all. So, when he said everything is normal, it seems that he was not pretending, but it is possible that he really can't see it. Is it really impossible to see it? Thinking of this, Xiao Wuji suddenly had an idea and said to Flanders, boss, I have an idea. If you can't see it, can you feel it? What do you mean? Flanders frowned. Yu Xiaogang had an expression of getting it, then raised his hand to summon Luo Sanpao. Luo Sanpao rushed to Flanders and jumped on his pectoralis major. Can you feel it? Xiao Wuji asked. Flanders frowned and shook his head. Can't feel it? Xiao Wuji scratched his head and then said, forget it, never mind. Now we know the solution anyway, so let's just follow that solution. What do you mean, Lao Xiao? Flanders' expression changed slightly. He seemed to realize something. Xiao Wuji picked up the sharp short knife on the table. Just use this. Flanders, go over there and lie down. Don't move. Yu Xiaogang was stunned. What? Do you want to cut it off? Xiao Wuji shook his head. No, just pierce a hole and let the air out. But at this point, Xiao Wuji suddenly realized something. No way. Flanders pierced Yu Xiaogang's eye before and let the air out, and Flanders was infected. So now, If he pierces Flanders' eye, then after Flanders gets better, he will be infected. And after being infected, he will not be aware that he has become abnormal. This is not okay. Thinking of this, he repeated all the conclusions he had drawn, and Yu Xiaogang and Flanders were stunned. So what do you mean? Flanders asked. You have to do it yourself. Xiao Wuji handed the knife to Flanders. Flanders took the knife and fell into silence. Although he didn't realize that he had a problem at the moment, he could still remember what Yu Xiaogang had experienced before, so he also knew that there was no other way except to pierce the eye to deflate. But I look normal now, where should I pierce? Flanders gestured with the knife. Also, all the anesthetics last night have been used up. Do you want me to pierce it raw? Forget it, piercing it raw is fine. I have suffered all kinds of injuries in the past. It's just that I don't know where to pierce. Leo Zhao, please give me some instructions. Under Xiao Wuji's command, Flanders pierced the pectoralis major muscle at once, but from his perspective, the tip of the knife was still some distance away from his skin, and what surprised him later was that, although Xiao Wuji said that he had pierced it and successfully deflated it, he did not feel any pain. In this case, it's not a big deal, and it's not scary. After all, it can be solved so easily without any pain. As the gas was completely released, Flanders' body returned to normal, but he still couldn't see the wound. Fortunately, Xiao Wuji and Yu Xiaogang were in charge. In the end, Flanders successfully applied medicine to himself. The next step was to wait for recovery. Yu Xiaogang's wound had almost healed. So far, in Xiao Wuji's opinion, this trouble has finally been completely solved. However, if it is really so easy to solve, then what is the strongest prop? It is called strongest, not just because of the strongest body. At the same time, when they thought they had solved this trouble, Zhang Tianyu also encountered a small trouble. Chapter 102 Beautiful Snake. Zhang Tianyu was bored with the daily routine of going back and forth between the soul fighting arena and the hotel. The key point was that other people could really cultivate, but he only cultivated by watching movies, which would make him bored if he watched too many movies. So on this day, Zhang Tianyu left the hotel and planned to go out for a walk. It was definitely not because he left the hotel, because he learned from the live map that an old acquaintance had come to Soto City. He really just left the hotel because he was bored. This old acquaintance was Meng Yiren. When he got the reminder from the live map, he was also a little surprised. It stands to reason that, after parting in the Stardao Great Forest, Meng Yiren's plot would end. Next, as long as she went to the Soul Master competition to trigger it again, she could go directly to eat a box lunch. But why did it appear again now? And it seemed that this girl Meng Yiren was coming for him, and she had been wandering around the hotel where he was. He had just walked out of the hotel and had not been wandering for long when he successfully ran into Meng Yiren. Zhang Tianyu. Hearing the familiar voice, Zhang Tianyu turned around and saw the energetic, youthful, and beautiful Meng Yiren standing in the sun. Her beautiful figure and charming face looked radiant in the sun. Oh, you are Meng Yiren? Not bad. You haven't forgotten me. Meng Yiren walked up to him and smiled. It's hard to forget, Zhang Tianyu said politely. How come you have time to come to Soto City today? Are you here to do something? Of course I'm here to do something. I came here specifically to find you. Meng Yiren pouted and pinched her slender waist with both hands. You wouldn't have forgotten what I told you before, that I would come to Soto City to play with you in the future, right? Zhang Tianyu smiled and said, then I'm really flattered. Where are your grandparents? Didn't they come with you? They went to play with their friends, so I came to find you. Meng Yiren smiled. I have been going to the Great Fighting Soul Arena to watch your games these days. Although you wore a mask and used a pseudonym, I can still recognize your martial spirit at a glance. No way, miss. Are you paying so much attention to me? Zhang Tianyu was flattered. So, since I pay so much attention to you and come all the way to find you, won't you treat me to a meal? Of course you will. Let's go. Zhang Tianyu took Meng Yiren and quickly left the hotel. If those jealous people see this, it will be very difficult to complete this task. Hint, activate the task, beautiful snake who eats people. Task target, conquer Meng Yiren, and have close contact with her. Basic task reward, soul level +2, reward points +200. Hint, the more intimate the behavior or contact between the two, the higher the task reward. Oh my god, when Zhang Tianyu saw Meng Yiren and heard the system issue this task, he was really shocked. Didn't expect that something would happen with Meng Yiren so soon. That's okay, it just happened to achieve the goal I promised before. In this life, I will strive to have some pink memories with all female characters of the same age and who have not been conquered. But Zhang Tianyu was really a little tired of staying in the hotel these days, so it was just right to come out and have some fun with Meng Yiren. The two of them strolled until noon and came to a nicely decorated restaurant for dinner. Zhang Tianyu generously paid 9 coins and booked a private room. Meng Yiren seemed to have some ulterior motives and actually took the initiative to ask for some wine. Zhang Tianyu began to mutter in his heart at this time, is this little girl trying to set me up? Host, do you think so? The system asked. Of course, before, her grandparents wanted to get me into their family. Think about it, if something really happens between me and her now, wouldn't it be a good opportunity for her grandparents to catch me? Then I will be in the wrong. If her grandparents insist on letting me join their family, or else they will charge me with hooliganism, then what do you think I should do? Well, it is indeed possible, the system said, then please let the host decide for yourself. What kind of reward will I get if I achieve what I want to achieve? You don't need to tell me about this. Zhang Tianyu thought to himself. Soon the food and drinks were served, and the two of them toasted each other, eating and drinking, and talking about everything. Meng Yiren's personality is a bit fierce and wild, and she has a bit of a tomboyish feel. To be honest, Zhang Tianyu likes girls with this kind of personality. They are not pretentious or shy, but are more generous and open-minded. It is not so tiring to get along with them. Unlike some girls, they are delicate all day long, and they have to let boys spoil them for the smallest things. They have to find something for boys to care about when they have nothing to do. If they don't care, it means that there is something wrong with the boys. When boys have something to do, they never care. These girls are not actually looking for boyfriends, they are just looking for slaves or servants. Ning Rangrang used to have this tendency, but at least Ning Rangrang really has status and position. Unlike some people, they are not destined to be princesses, but are full of princess syndrome. I have gone too far. Looking at Meng Yiren, who was drinking and had a slightly red face, and looking at her tender red lips, Zhang Tianyu's heart really itched. It's been many years since I last tasted meat. Damn it. Meng Yiren, don't seduce me like this. What are you looking at? Meng Yiren suddenly asked. At this moment, she drank a little too much. Her eyes were blurred, her face was slightly red, her red lips were delicate, and she looked at Zhang Tianyu in a teasing way. I'm looking at you. Zhang Tianyu said. What are you looking at me? Meng Yiren pouted. Don't you have so many confidants around you? Hey, you said that as if I were a stinky hooligan. Zhang Tianyu was speechless. Meng Yiren put down the wine glass, walked straight to Zhang Tianyu, and sat down. Hey, tell me the truth. Except for the one named Xiao, are the other two also unclear with you? Don't talk nonsense, okay? What do you mean unclear with me? The two were too close, and Zhang Tianyu could clearly smell the orchid-like fragrance on her body. This was simply a naked temptation for him. After all, Meng Yiren is older, and that slightly mature charm is not something that the young Shrek beauties can possess. You're still pretending, right? Meng Yiren approached Zhang Tianyu. I'm not blind. The way they look at you makes people feel sick. They look like they can't wait to stick to you. Sister, can we change the subject? Zhang Tianyu couldn't bear it anymore and quickly moved his butt to get away from her, but he didn't expect her to follow him relentlessly. Ouch. Are you blushing? How old are you? And still so shy. Chapter 103 First Blood. Zhang Tianyu thought to himself, I'm not shy, I'm just afraid that my fire will burn you, you know. I see that you don't understand at all. Meng Yiren continued to get close to Zhang Tianyu, saying with a teasing smile, understand? What do you understand? Zhang Tianyu asked very cooperatively. You want to understand? Call sister and listen. Sister can make you understand. I can also make you. Deng Duolang. Meng Yiren almost leaned on Zhang Tianyu, and that pleasant aroma went into Zhang Tianyu's nose like a slippery snake. Well, why not forget it? Zhang Tianyu wanted to retreat, but he had been forced to the wall and had no way to retreat. To say why Zhang Tianyu was so cowardly, it was not because he was a gentleman, but because according to the live map, the dragon man and the snake woman were in the restaurant where they were at the moment. So, if Zhang Tianyu couldn't help it at this moment and something really happened between him and Meng Yiren, and the dragon man and the snake woman broke in again, then the shit pot would really be on his head, and he couldn't get it off. Because in this kind of thing, no one would listen to a man's explanation. When the disheveled Meng Yiren sat on the ground and cried, he rushed up to molest me. I'm low level, my soul power is poor, I can't beat him. Zhang Tianyu couldn't clear himself, even if he jumped into the Yellow River. So, we have to think of a way to eat meat without being caught. Tell Meng Yiren to get a room in the hotel directly? Straight to the point, straightforward. But that would further confirm his identity as a gangster, and would be more likely to be criticized. So, why don't we use a prop? The system suggested. Zhang Tianyu smiled in his heart. It really deserves to be his sister Tangzi, who thinks the same as him. Choose to try. Substitute talisman. Zhang Tianyu was forced to stand up and run. Meng Yiren said with a smile, hey, don't run. The dragon and snake PO who were next door were surprised when they heard this. This kid is actually going to run away. Their beautiful granddaughter has been coveted by so many young men. Now she is offered to Zhang Tianyu, but he is actually going to run away. Just when they were thinking about this, they heard a sound of jumping out of the window from next door. The old couple looked out and found that it was Zhang Tianyu who jumped out of the window and ran away, and Meng Yiren followed closely and jumped out of the window. This kid is really annoying. Chao Xiangxiang said unhappily. Meng Shu smiled and said, I think he is a bit interesting. He is not the kind of scum who only thinks with his lower body. Let's go and follow him to see. After that, the two of them quietly jumped over the window and chased after him. However, in fact, the two who ran away were the effects created by the substitute talisman, and it would only affect the two people, Long Gong and Shipio. Others could not see the two fake figures, and the real Zhang Tianyu and Meng Yiren were still testing each other in the box. Seeing that Long Gong and Shipio had run away, Zhang Tianyu knew that the time was ripe and said, sister, there are too many people here, it's not good for you to do this, right? Meng Yiren smiled and said, oh, so you are shy about this? It's hard to say, let's go to a place with fewer people. No, wait a minute, that's not what I mean. Come on. As she said that, Meng Yiren pulled him out of the restaurant without saying anything. There was a hotel not far away, and Meng Yiren directly pulled Zhang Tianyu in and opened a room. Sitting on the bed in the hotel, Zhang Tianyu sighed. This girl is really resolute. In such a short time, the room was opened. Awesome. Come on, call me sister. Come on, call. Meng Yiren lay in front of Zhang Tianyu, getting closer to him little by little, and at the same time, stretched out her tender white little fingers, and kept hooking them at Zhang Tianyu. Zhang Tianyu put on the appearance of a pure boy and said, sister. Hey, so good. Meng Yiren chuckled. Then sister will do what she said, and let you understand it well. After that, swish. One piece of clothing flew out, and then two pieces of clothing flew out. Zhang Tianyu, who was holding the warm and soft jade, never dreamed that the first drop of blood in this life would be Meng Yiren. Girl. After an unknown amount of time, Meng Yiren slowly woke up and looked out the window to find that it was already evening. She immediately realized something and reached out to touch the side, but touched nothing, and then found that Zhang Tianyu had left. She was a little unhappy. This bastard patted his butt and ran away after having fun. She got up and dressed angrily, wanting to find Zhang Tianyu. Then she found a note on the bedside table. It's not that I don't want to wait for you to get up, but I have to go to the fighting spirit with my classmates. It's not good to be late. After waking up, go eat something, and then go to the fighting spirit field to watch my performance. Looking at this note, Meng Yiren was happy at first, and then a little upset. She was happy that Zhang Tianyu didn't forget her, but he left first because he had to gather fighting spirits. But what was sad was that there were 3 female classmates around Zhang Tianyu. Thinking of this, Meng Yiren sighed a little depressed. She was very happy to have something pleasant happen with Zhang Tianyu, but what next? Let Zhang Tianyu join the family? Will he agree? No, he definitely won't agree. Similarly, it's unlikely that he will give up those 3 confidants. Today's incident seemed to be her fault, but in fact, she took the initiative. After a moment of silence, she put on her clothes and walked out of the room. On the way out of the hotel and walking towards the fighting spirit field, she ran into her grandmother. Yiran, where have you been? Are you okay? Xiaogang asked her with concern after seeing her. I'm fine, Grandma. Why are you alone? Where's Grandpa? Is he still with your friends? Meng Yiran asked curiously. Xiaogang looked distressed. Your grandpa went to watch that boy. That boy is so hateful. I don't know what tricks he used to deceive us. Ah. Meng Yiran was stunned. Grandma, what are you talking about? What deceived you? Have you met him? Aren't you going to find your friends? Xiaogang paused for a moment and simply stopped pretending and told the truth. Zhang Tianyu's guess was absolutely correct. She and Long Gong came here not to find friends, but to set up a trap for Zhang Tianyu. In their opinion, Meng Yiran was very interested in Zhang Tianyu. This time, they came to find Zhang Tianyu. Maybe they could create some sparks, and they took the opportunity to rush up and use Meng Yiran as bait to lure Zhang Tianyu back. Unexpectedly, Zhang Tianyu used some kind of sleight of hand to trick them out of the city. When they came back, Zhang Tianyu and Meng Yiran had already gone to nowhere, and the tracking potion they had set on Meng Yiran had also been cleared. It was obvious that Meng Yiran had been eaten up by Zhang Tianyu. Xiaogang heart was beating. Chapter 104 successfully captured Meng Yiran. After hearing what Xiaogang said, Meng Yiran suddenly became angry. What, Grandma? No wonder you not only agreed to let me come, but also asked to come with me. It turns out that you treated me as bait. Xiaogang quickly explained. My dear, don't be angry. Your grandfather and I are doing this for you. After you go back, you have been distracted all day long, and your mind is full of that kid. As long as you can accept him into the family, you can be together every day in the future. What do you say it's for me? You just treat me as a tool. Meng Yiran became more and more angry as she thought about it. You just took a fancy to his talent and strength, and I'm just a bargaining chip and tool for you to threaten him. Xiaogang quickly hugged her. My dear, don't be angry. It's Grandma's fault. Don't cry. Grandma shouldn't do this. It's Grandma's fault. It's Grandma's fault. Don't cry. Don't cry. After a while of comforting, Meng Yiran's emotions stabilized. I'm sorry, Grandma. I shouldn't have lost my temper with you just now. It's okay. This matter is also due to Grandpa and Grandma's inconsiderateness. Xiaogang comforted in a soft voice, and then asked with concern. I'm only concerned about one thing now. Did that kid, did he bully you? He didn't bully me. Meng Yiran said. No. Xiaogang coughed and whispered. I mean, did he do that kind of thing with you? As soon as these words came out, Meng Yiran's face suddenly turned red with shame. Did he do that kind of thing? Not only did he do it, he went too far. Don't look at Zhang Tianyu's gentle and polite appearance, like a non-aggressive herbivorous man, but once the seal is unlocked, wow. He is even more beastly than a beast. Meng Yiran's little body was almost torn apart by him. But in front of Xiaogang, Meng Yiran still didn't dare to say it, but her appearance was equivalent to saying it. Xiaoyang's face was immediately filled with grief and indignation. She had worked hard to raise cabbages for more than 10 years, but today it was taken away by a stinky boy. I'm going to find him. I won't forgive him. Xiaogang was so angry. Meng Yiran quickly grabbed him. Grandma. Grandma, what are you doing? What are you doing? He dared to bully you. I won't let him go. I want him to give an explanation. Xiaogang said angrily. For today's matter, let alone Zhao Wuji is here. Even if their dean is here, I'm not afraid. I must make him give an explanation. She wanted to say Zhang Tianyu must join their family, but she was afraid of irritating Meng Yiran, so she changed her words to give an explanation. Meng Yiren quickly stopped her. Don't go, Grandma, I took the initiative. Meng Yiren was shy when she said this, but she still had to say it. She was not afraid of being separated from Zhang Tianyu, nor was she afraid that Zhang Tianyu had a confidant around him, because even so, she knew that they could meet again in the future, and they could still whisper and be affectionate, and make love. But she was afraid that Zhang Tianyu would think that she was a tool to force him to join their family. If Zhang Tianyu really thought so, then I'm afraid they would never meet again in the future. Yu Xiaogang was so angry that she was stunned, but she couldn't find words to scold Meng Yiren for a while. After all, when they were eating in the restaurant, they heard from the neighboring room how proactive Meng Yiren was. But for this kind of thing, as a girl, how can you take the initiative to admit it? Xiaogang whispered, even if you took the initiative, you can't admit it. Girls should be reserved. If you admit that you took the initiative, how will others see you? I don't need to care about other people's opinions. When saying this, Meng Yiren's eyes were filled with arrogance. Yu Xiaogang was so angry that she couldn't speak. It was only Meng Yiren who was speechless. If it was another younger generation in the family, she would have kicked him long ago. Grandma, I've chosen him. I will not marry anyone else in this life. Even if I know that there are several girls around him, I will not regret it. Meng Yiren said it firmly, like a turtle that had eaten a weight. Xiaogang had 1,000 words to say, but in the end it just turned into a long sigh. It can only be said that a girl cannot be kept when she grows up. She hasn't even got married yet, but she's already been thrown out. So Grandma, please don't go looking for trouble with him, okay? Meng Yiren said, I can feel that he is not the kind of person who will abandon you after having fun with you. Since we are already like this, he will not abandon me, but if you go looking for him, then he may never see me again. Xiaogang looked at her, wanting to say something, but finally just nodded. I knew Grandma was the best. Meng Yiren happily hugged Xiaogang's arm. Can you help me persuade Grandpa too? Okay, Xiaogang said, almost gritting her teeth, but we still have to go meet him. Don't be in a hurry, and listen to me. We are not going to cause trouble for him, but to make it clear to him that no matter how many confidants he has in the future, he must marry you in a formal way and have a legitimate status. If he dares to abandon you at that time, we will both risk our lives to find him for an explanation. There is no marriage law in Douluo. How many wives a man can find depends on his ability. Zhang Tianyu is extremely talented, powerful, and good looking. So Xiaogang and Meng Shu don't think he will only have one wife in the future. How many wives he has depends on his ability and has nothing to do with dragons and snakes. But there is one thing, he must leave a place for Meng Yiren. If he dares not to leave a place, the dragons and snakes will make him pay. For this, Meng Yiren did not refuse, but hugged Xiaogang with some emotion. After the fighting ended, Meng Shu appeared in front of Zhang Tianyu. Zhang Tianyu was not surprised by his appearance, and walked with him to the secluded corridor outside the lounge. After Meng Shu told him these words, he looked at Meng Shu calmly and bowed respectfully. Please rest assured, Grandpa, I, Zhang Tianyu, can swear a poisonous oath here. If you still stay with me, I will definitely not abandon you. If I break my oath, I will be struck by lightning, and I without a burial place. Anyway, it has been decided to take her into the harem and she will definitely marry her in the future. This oath will definitely not be violated. Hearing this, Grandpa, Meng Shu nodded with satisfaction. Okay, I'll see how you perform in the future. Meng Yiren in the corner was moved to tears by this oath. She almost couldn't control herself and rushed out to hug Zhang Tianyu. But she knew she had to restrain herself, because although it seemed that Zhang Tianyu and Meng Shu were alone at the moment, the other people of Shrek were watching not far away. If she rushed out to hug Zhang Tianyu, it would be causing trouble for him. Looking at the location of Meng Yiren on the live map, Zhang Tianyu felt a little touched. Meng Yiren is such a sensible and good girl. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 105. I would rather teach you to cheat on everyone in the world. Xiaogang, what did that old man say to you just now? Xiaowu asked with concern, as soon as Zhang Tianyu walked back to the crowd. Not only Xiaowu, but everyone else seemed to be very concerned. Nothing, it's just the same thing that happened in the Xingdao Great Forest last time, Zhang Tianyu said with a smile. They came to Soto City to do some business this time, and came to see me, by the way, to get close to me or something. Damu Bei smiled and said, it seems that they haven't given up the idea of taking you into their family, but they will definitely not succeed. Ning Rangrang looked confident. How big is his Dragon Lord Snake Lady family? Can it be compared to the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect? No matter from which aspect, Zhang Tianyu would never consider joining the Mengshu family. If he had to give priority, he would have to give priority to the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect. After spending some time together, Ning Rangrang has roughly understood Zhang Tianyu's personality. Zhang Tianyu is the kind of person who is born free. These 4 words are also his life creed. It is completely impossible for him to join a family and obey orders. Even if the family can offer great benefits, he will not agree. In his eyes, freedom is above everything else. Rangrang still understands me, Zhang Tianyu said with a smile. Hearing this, Ning Rangrang's heart was immediately happy. Flanders said, but it's not a good thing to always be remembered by others. I'm not afraid of anything else, but I'm afraid that they will secretly attack and steal you away. Zhao Wuji continued, yes, the name of the Dragon Man and the Snake Woman is still quite famous on the mainland. Although I haven't heard of them doing anything extraordinary, just because they didn't do it before doesn't mean they won't do it in the future. Thank you for the concern of the dean and the teacher. I will be careful. Zhang Tianyu said, even if I can't beat them, I can still run away. Zhao Yulan and the other 2 nodded and said no more. Now, the problem of Invincible seems to have been temporarily solved, so the 3 people are in a more relaxed mood at the moment, but they don't know that the current calm is just the calm before the storm. After the Shrek people returned to the hotel, Zhao Yulan and the other 2 also returned to the store. At this moment, Flanders and Yu Xiaogang both felt the muscles in their chest and back tightening and heating at the same time. However, they did not care about it, thinking that they were too tired these days. Because of confusion of consciousness, they did not associate the heating and tightening of muscles with the enlargement of the pectoralis major. At the same time, Zhao Wuji also felt the muscles in his chest tightening and heating, but he also did not care about it, thinking that he was too tired these days. In the second half of the night, after Zhang Tianyu confirmed that everyone was asleep, he quietly left the room and flew to the hotel, where Meng Yiren was like a ghost. Meng Yiren was still in the room where they were before, and Longgong Mengshu stayed in another room in the same hotel. Meng Yiren lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Her mind was full of the oath that Zhang Tianyu had sworn in the fighting arena. Every time she thought of that oath and the confident expression on Zhang Tianyu's face when he said that, she felt so happy in her heart. It was like a dream. She didn't expect that she would be able to have close contact with Zhang Tianyu, and she didn't expect that they would have such an intimate relationship. Zhang Tianyu didn't expect that after the 2 of them had fun, he actually directly upgraded 5 levels and got 2000 energy points. The level soared directly from level 40 to level 45, which was amazing. If he could upgrade 5 levels every time he captured a girl, then wouldn't it be easy to become a god at level 100? But has your damn system changed from a system for cheating people to a system for picking up girls? Zhang Tianyu said in his heart with a bad temper, you don't issue any tasks to cheat Tang San and Yu Xiaogang. I cheated them so many times, but my strength didn't improve at all. Sleeping with Meng Yiren upgraded me by 5 levels. It's outrageous. Don't worry, host. It's not that there are no tasks, but it's not time to trigger them yet. The system said. The progress of cheating them this time is almost reaching its climax. It's not time to trigger it yet? Zhang Tianyu asked. The system said mysteriously, when the time comes, it will be triggered. Don't worry, host. We have been partners for so many years. How can I cheat you? Zhang Tianyu was silent. This is really possible. After all, you are a cheating system. Others don't understand the nature of the system, but Zhang Tianyu still knows something. The system is so aggressive that it will really cheat Zhang Tianyu, the host. Just when Meng Yiren was thinking about all sorts of things and couldn't sleep, there was a knock on the door. Meng Yiren jumped up from the bed like a conditioned reflex. Who? Me? Hearing Zhang Tianyu's voice, Meng Yiren was instantly overjoyed. She was worried that she wouldn't be able to sleep well tonight, but someone came to sleep with her. At this moment, she didn't care about the girl's modesty at all. She rushed to the door and opened it. Sure enough, Zhang Tianyu, who looked innocent, stood outside the door. I'm sorry, I'm here so late. Whoosh. Before Zhang Tianyu finished speaking, he was grabbed by Meng Yiren and brought into the room. The door was closed. Meng Yiren pounced on Zhang Tianyu like a hungry tiger and threw him on the bed. Ah, Yiren, wait a minute, don't be busy. Then Zhang Tianyu's mouth was blocked. Before his reason was controlled by desire, Zhang Tianyu had only one thought in his mind. Why did he feel that Meng Yiren seemed to have been holding it in longer than him? After an exciting night, the morning sun rose. Meng Yiren said weakly, it's dawn. Take a break. You know you want to take a break now? Zhang Tianyu grinned. No way. I've served you all night. Can't you enjoy yourself? Come here. Meng Yiren pinched Zhang Tianyu's muscles. You're so bad. This completely calmed Meng Yiren down. At this time, words are pale, and thousands of words are not as good as a real happy time. Only when you are happy enough, the girl will feel relieved. Back to the hotel. Tianyu, where have you been this morning? Dame Bei asked curiously when he saw Zhang Tianyu. I haven't seen you since I woke up, and Zhao Wu has looked for you several times. Huh? What did she look for me for? Zhang Tianyu asked. How would I know? Dame Bei was speechless. You should ask her yourself. On the way to the girl's room, Zhang Tianyu's heartbeat accelerated. Could it be that Zhao Wu had discovered something? If she did, what would you do? The system asked. Zhang Tianyu was silent for a second, then a fierce look appeared on his face, and he snorted viciously. Then I'll kill her too. Chapter 106 Separate Journey. Of course, this is just a joke. After all, the system still knows Zhang Tianyu. Zhang Tianyu never bullies others by taking advantage of his power. He likes to be passive. So when he was pushed down by Meng Yiren, it was like the sun rising, and his life was filled with bright light at that moment. He came to the girl's room and knocked on the door. Zhao Wu's voice came immediately. Who is it? Me. Gulp gulp. The sound of running came, and the next second the door was opened. The memory of last night instantly appeared in front of him. Zhang Tianyu was even ready to be forcibly pulled in and pressed on the bed to chew, but Zhao Wu did not follow his idea. I heard from Leode that you are looking for me. What's the matter? Zhang Tianyu is the love saint after all, and he adjusted his state in an instant. I have to ask you first, you haven't seen anyone since early in the morning, and you just came back at almost noon. Where have you been? Zhao Wu asked with her big eyes flashing. In the room, Ning Rangrang and Zhu Zuking also cast their eyes over, and it seemed that they were also very interested in this question. These days, I go back and forth between the hotel and the fighting arena every day, so I'm a little bored. I went out for a walk and a stroll these 2 days. Zhao Wu looked him up and down. Oh, I walked and strolled. Then she walked slowly around Zhang Tianyu in circles, asking as she walked, who have you met recently? Who have you eaten with? Zhang Tianyu looked questioning on the surface. Ah, what are you talking about? In fact, his heart began to beat wildly. Damn, this little girl couldn't really know something. Hearing Zhang Tianyu's question, Zhao Wu didn't say anything, but slowly approached Zhang Tianyu, staring at him with wide eyes without blinking. In this case, we can only throw a stone to test the water first. Zhang Tianyu quickly formulated a battle plan, spread his hands and said, okay, you really found out that I have eaten with others recently. Zhao Wu's expression suddenly changed, and Ning Rangrang and Zhu Zuking in the room also had some reactions instantly. Who? Zhao Wu asked immediately. I ate at a restaurant outside when I went out for a walk yesterday. When I ate, the people in the restaurant were eating with me, Zhang Tianyu said. Hearing this, Xiao Wu obviously showed a relieved expression. Ning Rangrang and Zhu Zuking also seemed to relax, and Zhang Tianyu also breathed a sigh of relief. Damn, this little hoof is really ripping me off. Of course, it's not just ripping him off. Xiao Wu asked this question for other reasons, and Zhang Tianyu has figured it out. So when Xiao Wu was about to speak, Zhang Tianyu took the lead and said, okay, I understand what you mean. Let's go. I'll have lunch with you today, okay? Xiao Wu immediately smiled and said, let's go. She was also very anxious, because she had to go to the same place every day, and the food in this hotel was actually not very delicious. Because this is a hotel near the fighting spirit field, although the cost of staying in the hotel is very expensive, the service is actually very average. The expensiveness is due to the location. I'll go too. Ning Rangrang was naturally unwilling to lag behind. Although Xiao Wu was a little unhappy, she had already guessed that Ning Rangrang would definitely go along. She had been used to having such a light bulb for such a long time. But since Ning Rangrang had come along, then Zhu King, you should come too? Xiao Wu asked. Anyway, there was already a light bulb, so it didn't matter if there was one more. Zhu King was stunned and subconsciously wanted to agree, but she thought that she had to be reserved, so she shook her head and said, you guys go. Let's go together. Zhang Tianyu said, it will be more lively with more people. Then Zhu King agreed. There was no way this was Zhang Tianyu's personal invitation. How could she not give him face? Zhang Tianyu walked in front, and Zhu King followed at the back. Looking at Zhang Tianyu's back, she felt a little dazed. She didn't know when Zhang Tianyu's position in her heart had surpassed Dame Yu Bei. When he walked out of the door, he happened to meet Dame Yu Bei. Dame Yu Bei saw Zhang Tianyu and the three beauties going out, and hurriedly asked, Tianyu, what are you doing? Let's go out for dinner. Let's go together, Lao Day. Zhang Tianyu said. He still had to save face. If he didn't take the initiative to invite Dame Yu Bei at this time, then Dame Yu Bei would definitely think too much, which would be detrimental to his plan to harm him in the future. When he said this, Zhang Tianyu also winked at him very secretly, and then glanced behind him. Dame Yu Bei certainly understood the meaning of this look. He knew that Zhang Tianyu was going to create an opportunity for him and Zhu Zuking. Good brother. He is really a super good brother. Dame Yu Bei's expression was delighted, and he immediately said, okay, let's go together. I'll treat you. But he didn't expect that after hearing what he said, Zhu Zuking immediately said with disgust, then I won't go. Xiao Wu thought it would be best if Zhu Zuking didn't go, and it would be best if Ning Rangrang didn't go either. But, as a good sister on the surface, now that Zhu Zuking said she would not go, she of course had to stand on Zhu Zuking's side. Zuking is not going, so I will not go either. Hearing Xiao Wu's statement, Ning Rangrang could only helplessly follow suit. You two stinky men go. We'll go to another restaurant to eat. This. Zhang Tianyu looked annoyed on the surface, but in fact he was very happy. Xiao Wu, you are really my sensible sister. You are really my best assist. Seeing this scene, Dame Yu Bei's suppressed emotions finally burst out, pointing at Zhu Zuking's back and angrily saying, stop right there. Zhu Zuking ignored him and went straight back to her room. You. Dame Yu Bei pointed at Zhu Zuking's door and was so angry that he couldn't say a complete sentence for a long time. Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang rolled their eyes at Dame Yu Bei and turned back to their rooms. Zhang Tianyu knew that there was no chance of having this meal today, but he was not discouraged or sad, and he was even very happy, because this laid a solid foundation for the improvement of his relationship with Zhu Zuking in the future. Soon, the three girls walked out of the room, without even looking at Zhang Tianyu and Dame Yu Bei, and went downstairs from the other side to eat outside. Oh, it hurts. Zhang Tianyu patted Dame Yu Bei on the shoulder. Dame Yu Bei took a few deep breaths and finally suppressed the anger in his chest. He said to Zhang Tianyu, I'm sorry, brother, and I disturbed your date with Xiao. Hey, what's the matter? Let's go and have a drink. Hey, Take me with you. Oscar, who was pale, quickly appeared. Tianyu, I can feel that there is not much dead air left in my body, so just take me with you. Zhang Tianyu looked at Damu Bei, and Damu Bei said, just call all the boys, let's go drink together. Chapter 107. The assist was actually made by him. The group drank until the evening, when they were about to gather. Even though everyone kept stopping him and persuading him, Damu Bei eventually got drunk and passed out. There's nothing we can do. We can only take Day back to the hotel first, Oscar said. Everyone nodded. Damu Bei definitely couldn't go to the soul fighting in his current state. If he went, he would be beaten to death. When they sent him back to the hotel, they didn't see the girls. They probably had already gathered at the soul fighting arena. They didn't dare to neglect them, and left the hotel quickly. At the gate of the soul fighting arena, Zhao Yulan and the other two and the three girls had already arrived. What's wrong with you? Flanders frowned and asked, where's Damu Bei? Mahanjan said, Dean, Day has drunk too much, and can't participate in the soul fighting tonight. The three girls immediately showed a trace of contempt on their faces. What's the big deal to get him drunk? Zhao Yulan and the other two were all a little unhappy. What's going on? Why are you drunk? Other boys looked at each other, not daring to say more. Flanders said, okay, let's leave it at that for today. I'll talk to him tomorrow. In fact, Flanders probably knew why Damu Bei was like that, so he felt even more angry. With Damu Bei's conditions, what kind of woman can't he find? Even if he had to find a woman with the nether spirit cat spirit, Zhu Xuking's family is not the only woman of the right age. As long as Damu Bei is strong, it would be easy to find a suitable one from them. He thought so, because he didn't know that Damu Bei and Zhu Xuking were already engaged. Of course, if he knew, he would also advise Damu Bei not to indulge himself because of a woman. The strong never lack those who depend on them. At any time, only when you become stronger can you get everything you want. There is no point in complaining about yourself. After a while, the fighting spirit ended and everyone returned to the hotel. The rooms where the boys live in the hotel are next to the rooms where the girls live, and the room where Damu Bei and Mahanjan live is close to the stairs. So after everyone goes upstairs, if they want to go back to their rooms, they have to pass by the door of Damu Bei's room. I guess Boss Day has sobered up now? Mahanjan said. Oscar said, almost. Boss Day has always had a good alcohol tolerance. Although he drank a little too much this time, he is a soul master after all, and he must sober up faster than ordinary people. As a result, when everyone walked to the door of Damu Bei's room, when Mahanjan was about to open the door, he heard an indescribable and childish sound coming from the room. Everyone was stunned. Mahanjan's brain is always flawed, and he subconsciously blurted out, huh. Boss Day brought a girl to the hotel to spend the night. Then he opened the door of the room directly. The room was full of spring. After seeing the scene inside, everyone was collectively stunned. Sure enough, Damu Bei was doing something indescribable with a woman. Everyone has seen that woman. She is a waitress in the hotel. Mahanjan said, oh my god. What's going on? Why has Boss Day's taste dropped? To be honest, this hotel waitress actually looks okay. She is only in her 20s and has a good figure. But compared with the standard of the twins that Damu Bei hugged before, this waitress is much worse. Of course, this is not the point. The point is that Damu Bei clearly knew that at this time, everyone would basically be able to complete the fighting spirit and return to the hotel, but he was doing something dirty with the hotel waitress here at this time. Exclamation mark. This is obviously done deliberately for everyone to see. No, to be precise, this is done deliberately for Zhu Xuking to see. Everyone present almost subconsciously thought so. Zhang Tianyu's face was full of surprise. Swear to God, this was not done by him. The system did not issue a task to pit Damu Bei, and his hatred for Damu Bei was far less than Oscar, Tang San and Yu Xiaogang, so he did not take the initiative to mess with Damu Bei today. So what Damu Bei did at this moment was completely his own will and behavior. So why did Damu Bei do this with a waiter? And he did it just when everyone else was back. Was he really doing it on purpose for Zhu Xuking to see? Was he deliberately trying to piss off Zhu Xuking? This doesn't make sense. Damu Bei had said before that he wanted to find twins, but in fact he didn't. Of course, it could also be that he was too busy with training and didn't have time to take care of them. But if Damu Bei really wanted to piss off ZHU Xiaogang, he should at least find twins of the same quality, right? Deliberately find someone of poor quality so that he can piss off ZHU Xiaogang more. It's possible, but would Damu Bei really be so childish? Xiao Wu and Ning Rangran finally recovered and cursed in a low voice, shameless. Really shameless. After that, they pulled ZHU Xiaogang away quickly, and ZHU Xiaogang just looked at Damu Bei, who was having fun, with a cold face, without any fluctuations in her eyes. Looking at the three people leaving, Zhang Tianyu sighed lightly, his expression solemn, and the reactions of the other boys were basically the same as his. Now no one could help match Damu Bei and ZHU Xiaogang. Everyone understands that, after what happened tonight, ZHU Xiaogang will probably never forgive Damu Bei again. Doing this in front of so many people is equivalent to pushing ZHU Xiaogang's last layer of dignity into a corner. If ZHU Xiaogang can still forgive Damu Bei and be with him under this circumstance, then let alone others. First of all, ZHU Xiaogang herself will look down on herself. After hearing Xiao Wu's words and everyone's sighs, Damu Bei, who was immersed in joy, seemed to have finally recovered. He suddenly raised his head and looked at the door. When he saw everyone standing at the door, he was completely stunned. Then he suddenly looked down at the woman under him, and his face changed drastically in an instant. Who are you? How did you get on my bed? Damu Bei turned over and got out of bed in panic, picked up the sheets scattered on the ground, and covered his body, and the waiter on the bed cried and said, "You pushed me to the bed, and you still ask me, do I have it?" Damu Bei asked a little dazedly. The waiter said nothing more, wrapped his body with a quilt, picked up the clothes on the ground and quickly walked into the bathroom. Damu Bei also picked up his clothes and put them on with a look of despair, not daring to look up at other people the whole time. Others did not speak either. Soon, the waitress in the bathroom changed her clothes and came out. Seeing the waitress dressed, everyone showed a look of surprise. The waitress was wearing a black dress. She had a good figure and the clothes were tight. Judging from her body shape, she looked very similar to ZHU Xiaogang, so Damu Bei might have mistaken her for ZHU Xiaogang when he was drunk. But what's the use of understanding this? Will ZHU Xiaogang listen if I explain it to her? Definitely not. Chapter 108 Breakup. Seeing the waitress crying and walking out of the door, Zhang Tianyu immediately stopped her. She cried and looked at Zhang Tianyu with some fear. She was just an ordinary person, and the people in front of her were all soul masters. After experiencing what happened just now, she had developed a fear of these people. This incident tonight was just a misunderstanding. My friend drank too much. Sorry. As he said, Zhang Tianyu took out a purse from his arms. There are 200 kilograms of soul coins in it. Although I know I can't compensate you, you can take it first. We will live here. If you have any problems, you can come to us. 200 gold soul coins. This is a huge sum of money for an ordinary person. The waitress was a little afraid to accept it, and Zhang Tianyu stuffed the purse into her hand. Go back and have a good sleep and rest. Don't think too much. The waitress stretched out her trembling hand to take the purse, nodded to Zhang Tianyu, and then left quickly. Everyone looked at Zhang Tianyu with some admiration. At the critical moment, it still has to be Zhang Tianyu. At this time, when no one knew what to do, only he calmly cleaned up Damu Bei's mess, handled the aftermath, soothed the victim's emotions, and reduced the impact. It was a great blessing to have such a brother in life. Watching the waiter leave, Zhang Tianyu walked to Damu Bei and patted his shoulder. Let's leave it at that for tonight. Don't think about anything. Get a good night's sleep. We'll talk tomorrow if there's anything. Damu Bei nodded a little dully, looked out the window, and quickly retracted his gaze. He actually wanted to ask if ZHU Xiaogang had seen the scene just now, but he didn't dare to ask. And in fact, he knew without asking that ZHU Xiaogang must have seen it, otherwise Zhang Tianyu and others would not have such an expression. It's over. At this moment, his mind was full of only these two words. He and ZHU Xiaogang were completely over, and there was absolutely no possibility. Let's go back to. Zhang Tianyu said to Tang San and Oscar, don't disturb Laoday's rest. The two nodded, and then he said to Mahanjan, "Watch your mouth, and don't talk nonsense. Understand, understand." Mahanjan said immediately. Zhang Tianyu, Tang San and Oscar returned to their rooms. "Alas, I think there is no hope for Douluo and Zhu Xiaogang," Oscar sighed and said, after returning to the room. Tang San was silent. Although he had lived 2 lives, he was single from birth, had never been in love, and had never had a partner, so he didn't know much about these things, and had no say. Zhu Xiaogang is also a strong-willed girl. After something like this happened, it's really a stretch. Zhang Tianyu also said, "Forget it, let's go to sleep." The room became quiet. On the other side, Damu Bei lay on the bed like a zombie, staring at the ceiling with a dull look. At this moment, he was extremely regretful. Why did he go to drink? If you want to drink, just drink. Why get drunk? Why get drunk? Why did the waitress enter his room? Oh, by the way, it was to clean up the vomit he vomited after getting drunk. Then why did the waitress have to wear black clothes? Why is her figure so similar to Zhu Xiaogang? In the final analysis, it was because he was drunk. This has nothing to do with others, it's his own fault. In the girls' room, Xiaowu and Ning Rangrang were not as lively as before tonight. The room was very quiet tonight. Zhu Xiaogang lay on the bed, sideways, facing inward, breathing evenly and calmly, as if what happened tonight had no effect on her. Xiaowu and Ning Rangrang saw that her mood was relatively stable, so they didn't say much. No one saw it. A tear slid down Zhu Xiaogang's cheek and fell on the pillow. This tear was her break with the past. In Flanders' shop, Zhao Yulin and the other two felt the muscles in their chests and backs tighten and heat again, but they still didn't care. At midnight, Zhang Tianyu quietly climbed out of the hotel again and flew quickly towards the hotel where Meng Yiren was. The live point map is really useful. With this thing, there is no need to worry about alarming others or being followed. As long as Xiaowu or Ning Rangrang dares to follow, he can find it immediately. At the same time, he could also find the spies and eyes of the 7 treasures glazed tile sect hiding in the dark around him, but those spies and eyes were only interested in Ning Rangrang and would not follow Zhang Tianyu. There was a knock on the door, and Meng Yiren opened the door with a look of surprise, and then there was another round of lovemaking. 3 consecutive days of happiness were like a long-awaited rain for Zhang Tianyu, quenching his thirst. In the early morning, when the sky in the east was white, Zhang Tianyu hugged the naked Meng Yiren with a satisfied look. Although Meng Yiren was a little tired, he still propped himself up, kissed him on the face, and said, "We are going back this afternoon." "So soon? Not staying a few more days?" Zhang Tianyu was a little reluctant. Meng Yiren smiled sweetly. "I also want to stay a few more days, but my grandparents have things to do, and I have to go back to practice, so I can't play outside all the time." "Okay," Zhang Tianyu said. "If you miss me in the future, you can come to me," Meng Yiren said with some anticipation. The girls of her age in the family basically know Zhang Tianyu. If Zhang Tianyu can take the initiative to find her, she will definitely be proud. Zhang Tianyu smiled helplessly. "I want to find you, but you can see that the teachers stipulate that we must fight every day, and I can't act alone." "I know." Meng Yiren buried her head in his chest. "I won't cause you any trouble, as long as you don't forget me." "Don't worry, I won't." Zhang Tianyu hugged her and smiled. "After this separation, I don't know when we will see each other again, so let's fight for another 300 rounds. Before Meng Yiren refused, Zhang Tianyu had already turned over and successfully got to the top amid her exclamation. "You can come again, but you have to be at the bottom," Meng Yiren said. "Okay." Zhang Tianyu smiled. "Hey, Tianyu, are you out wandering again?" Oscar asked with a smile when he saw Zhang Tianyu coming back. "Well, it's good to go out and exercise," Zhang Tianyu said. Damu Bei's door opened, and Damu Bei walked out with dark circles under his eyes and a haggard face. "Old Day, are you okay?" Zhang Tianyu asked immediately. Damu Bei shook his head, walked straight to the door of the girls' room, knocked on the door, and said, "Xiaogang, are you free? I want to talk to you." "No way," Oscar whispered. "Big Day is going to go directly to Zhu Xiaogang? This will definitely be rejected, right?" Zhang Tianyu didn't think so. Sure enough, soon the door was opened, and Xiaogang walked out with a calm expression, and said indifferently, "It just so happens that I also want to talk to you." Chapter 109 Good brothers, don't talk nonsense. No one knew what Daimyo Bei and Xiaogang talked about. Everyone could only see them standing in the alley at the back door of the hotel from a distance, and vaguely see the changes in their expressions. "Master host, won't you do something? Aren't you afraid that Xiaogang will be taken back by Daimyo Bei?" the system asked. "I have done what I should do," Zhang Tianyu said. "The rest depends on Xiaogang's own choice. If she insists on going back, then no matter what I do, it will be useless. Besides, do you think that in this situation, Daimyo Bei can really get Xiaogang back?" Zhang Tianyu had no expression on his face, and he laughed in his heart. "Let me tell you, with Xiaogang's personality, she is willing to talk to Daimyo Bei frankly, which means that she has completely given up on Daimyo Bei. Only when she really decides to give up completely will she be so frank. Otherwise, she will still be as disgusted and hate Daimyo Bei as before." "Really?" The system was a little unconvinced. You don't believe it, right? Do you want to make a bet?" Zhang Tianyu asked. "What's the bet?" Zhang Tianyu opened the attribute list and looked at it and said, "I have a total of 6,050 reward points now, and if I make a small change, it will be 6,000. If Xiaogang and Daimyo Bei make up later, then you can deduct all the 6,000. But if they break up completely, I don't need you to give me 6,000, just give me 3,000. How about that?" The system was silent. "Forget it if we don't bet," Zhang Tianyu said. "Anyway, apart from the task rewards, you probably don't have the power to give me extra reward points. Host, you don't have to use provocation," the system said. "Just bet. Hint, the bet is established and cannot be violated." Zhang Tianyu was happy. The communication between Daimyo Bei and Xiaogang did not last long. About 15 minutes later, the two walked into the back door of the hotel and then came to the second floor. Everyone could see the relaxed expression on Xiaogan's face, and Daimyo Bei's face seemed to have a somewhat relaxed expression, as if he had put down a heavy burden on his heart. The system said, "From their expressions, your opinion is a bit dangerous." Zhang Tianyu was not panicked at all. "Just wait and see. Anyway, I will never break the bet." "Of course I will," the system said. Xiaogang, as usual, ignored everyone and went straight back to the room. Daimyo Bei glanced at Xiaogang's back and then returned to the room. Mahanjan and Oscar, two gossiping men, rushed up immediately. "Boss Day, what did you talk about with Xiaogang?" "Yes, Boss Day, has she forgiven you?" Mahanjan said. "Damn. You are worthy of being the love saint, Boss Day. You can easily deal with her." Daimyo Bei listened to them quietly, then remained silent for a few seconds, and then said, "No, we are completely broken up." The room was quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Zhang Tianyu was not very happy, because this was completely within his expectations. If Xiaogang could still forgive Daimyo Bei in the situation last night, then he would never take Xiaogang into his harem. No way. "Boss Day, is this true?" Mahanjan's eyes widened. "We are done now? No way. We are just getting started." Oscar also said, "Boss Day, since she is the most suitable girl for you, you can't give up easily. Young people are impulsive, and it's normal for them to break up and get back together." Zhang Tianyu said in a dignified manner. "After a while, this matter will fade, and it will be over." Daimyo Bei smiled bitterly and shook his head. He sat on the edge of the bed, took a deep breath, and slowly said, "Xiaogang and I have known each other for a long time. We can also be considered childhood sweethearts, and we are already engaged." "What?" Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect that Daimyo Bei and Xiaogang actually had such a relationship. Zhang Tianyu naturally knew it a long time ago, but at this time he had to pretend to be surprised. Our family's tradition is that the strong are respected and the weak must be abandoned. The same is true of the Xiaogang family's rules. Xiaogang and I are both juniors in the family. No matter what aspect, we cannot compare to our brothers and sisters. I know very well that I'm not my brother's opponent. In the battle for the throne a few years later, I will definitely lose, so I gave up on myself. In these years, I have been lingering in the flowers, living a life of drunkenness and dreams, and enjoying myself to the fullest. But Zhuking is different from me. Even if she knows that she is not the opponent of the other party, she will try her best to the last moment. After meeting her, I actually rekindled a glimmer of hope, and I also wanted to break with the past completely and work hard with her from now on. I have been doing this during this period of time, but I didn't expect that all the efforts during this period of time would come to nothing. We have made it clear to each other just now. I will accept everything in the future calmly, and she will never abide by that marriage contract again, and will never return to that family again. She will only fight for her freedom in the future, even if she will die in the encirclement and suppression of her family. That's a family engagement. How can it be cancelled just like that? Mahanjan asked. Oscar looked at her speechlessly. Nonsense. She is planning to break up with the family. Why would she care about the engagement made by that family? Mahanjan said. Then her family will definitely not forgive her, right? Oscar was speechless again. What are your ears for? Didn't you hear what Boss Day said? That Zhu Zhuking would not hesitate, even if she died under the siege of the family. Oh. Mahanjan nodded repeatedly with a look of admiration on her face. Fuck, she's a tomboy. At this time Zhang Tianyu said, we Shrek are a hole. No matter it is you or Zhu Zhuking, we will not watch you get into trouble. If your family comes to make trouble, I will be the first to go up and take it. Yes. And us. Mahanjan, Oscar and Tang San said in unison. Damu Bei shook his head. The power of our family is not something you can contend with. Mahanjan said, if Ning Rangrang knew about Zhu Zhuking's situation, she would not ignore it. Damu Bei shook his head again. He was very grateful to these friends, but the feeling of powerlessness in his heart was always lingering. Can these people actually contend with the power of the Zhongluo royal family? Even if Ning Rangrang helped, Ning Fengzi would not agree. Then thank you. Damu Bei stood up and looked at everyone gratefully. Really, it is the greatest luck of my life to come here and meet you brothers. Zhang Tianyu said, since we are brothers, don't say scum. Chapter 110. This thing is really contagious. Damu Bei looked at Zhang Tianyu, his eyes containing thousands of words. Really, if he was a woman, he would have promised himself to Zhang Tianyu at this moment. Last night, Zhang Tianyu calmly comforted the victim for him and helped him clean up his mess. Although he didn't say anything at the time, he saw and heard it all. Thinking about the brotherhood between him and Zhang Tianyu, since he met him, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He must have saved the world in his previous life to meet such a good treasure brother in this life. Words can no longer describe how good a brother Zhang Tianyu is. It can only be said that if there is a life and death brother worth making friends with for a lifetime in this world, then he must be like Zhang Tianyu. Let's go. Don't think about it. Let's go have lunch. Zhang Tianyu patted Damu Bei on the shoulder. At this time, Mahanjan once again showed his fine tradition of speaking without thinking, and said, in that case, wouldn't Zhu Zhuking, such a good girl, be a bargain for others? Now anyone can pursue her. Damu Bei immediately turned his head and glared at him, which scared him back to his senses, and immediately said in a row, ahem. Day boss, I was wrong. I was talking nonsense. Don't mind it. The next second, Damu Bei's momentum quickly weakened, and he sighed. Yes, now she is completely free, and it is her freedom to be with anyone, and I have no right to control it. After saying that, Damu Bei was really like a deflated ball, and the whole person was visibly decadent. During the meal, he was also not in the mood, and he didn't eat much. After the meal, everyone just returned to the hotel, and came to the second floor, and saw Flanders back. Mahanjan immediately shouted, Dean. Flanders turned around, but everyone was stunned. Why is the pectoral muscle of this Dean Flanders a bit exaggerated? Exclamation mark. For a moment, everyone was stunned. At this time, everyone couldn't help but think of Yu Xiaogang before. Before, it was Yu Xiaogang's chest muscles that were exaggerated. How come it became Flanders now? What's going on? What's the situation? Even Damu Bei stopped being decadent for a short time, showing a surprised and puzzled expression. Dame Yubei, I came to talk to you. What's the expression on your face? Flanders frowned. His voice was still as rough and magnetic as before. That's right, except for the enlargement of the chest muscles. There was no other change. So what the hell is going on? Dean, have you been working out recently? Mahanjan asked. Flanders frowned. Why should I work out when I have nothing to do? Wait, what do you mean by asking this question? Mahanjan pointed his finger at Flanders' chest. Flanders looked down and then asked, could it be that my chest muscles have become bigger again? Everyone nodded in unison. Nonsense, I have obviously solved this problem. Flanders said unhappily. Dame Yubei, come here. Mahanjan was about to say something else, but Flanders had already turned and left. Dame Yubei also followed Flanders obediently. After the two of them left, Mahanjan immediately asked, what should we do? The teacher's body is in trouble, but he doesn't believe us at all. The master before also didn't believe us at all, but at that time he had the dean and teacher's AO by his side. But now, the dean has become like this. Oscar suddenly got a little scared, and then his voice became a little trembling as he said, it was the master at first, and then the dean. Why did the dean become like this? Could it be? Is it contagious? Is this an infectious disease? Hearing this, the four boys all showed a trace of fear on their faces. Damn. If this thing can be contagious, wouldn't it be very scary? And it seems that after being infected, even if the symptoms appear, they still don't realize it. So could it be that they have actually been infected, but they don't realize it themselves? If this is the case, then it's over. As a grown man, walking on the street in this form, it's simply a top social death. No, no, no. The four of them should be fine. If there is any problem, then at least Xiao Wu and the other three girls will remind them. Thinking of this, they were slightly relieved. But this is not a solution. Tang San said, if the symptom is really contagious, then we will not be able to escape sooner or later. Then what should we do? Oscar's voice trembled even more. Now that he has become a hairy monster, it is already difficult for him to find a girlfriend. If the symptom appears again in the future, then it's over. Don't even think about finding a girl in this life. Mahanjan also had a look of fear on his face. Yeah, what should we do? If it really becomes like this, damn, I can't stand it. Don't worry. Zhang Tianyu still had to be the key at the critical moment. Everyone, don't rush. These are just our guesses. This symptom may not be contagious. Besides, even if it is contagious, there must be a transmission route. That's right. Now we have to find this transmission route. Tang San said, if it is really contagious, find the transmission route. Cut off the route, then naturally it will not be contagious. Hearing what the two said, Oscar and Mahanjan calmed down. Oscar asked, but how to find the route? Tang San thought for a while and said, at first it was the teacher, and now it is the dean. If it is really contagious, then something must have happened between the teacher and the dean. Tang San suddenly couldn't say anything. Damn. What happened? He quickly shook his head, changed his tone, and said, it must be transmitted through some route. Let's ask the dean later. I hope Flanders can answer truthfully. But the problem now is that the dean doesn't seem to believe us at all. He doesn't take our words seriously at all. He even said that he has solved the problem. If we ask him, can he answer? Oscar asked worriedly. We have to ask. Zhang Tianyu said, the dean is not an unreasonable person. If we ask seriously, he will definitely tell us. Everyone nodded. Yes, although Flanders is a little narrow-minded, he is not completely unreasonable. As long as the seriousness of the matter is made clear, he will definitely tell us. Next, they have to wait for Flanders to finish talking with Dame Yubei, and then they will ask Flanders. Now Flanders is teaching Dame Yubei. If they disturb him rashly, Flanders will definitely be angry. What they didn't expect was that they waited for an entire afternoon. Flanders valued Dame Yubei very much and gave Dame Yubei guidance for an entire afternoon. When they met again, it was already at the gate of the Great Fighting Spirit Arena in the evening. What shocked these boys was that not only Flanders, but also Yu Xiaogang and Xiao Wu's chest muscles were very exaggerated. Everyone was shocked. Damn, this is really contagious. Chapter 111 The Only Smart Person. At this moment, not only the Shrek people, but also the passers-by around all noticed this place, and then revealed strange and complicated expressions. You know, this time point is just when the big fighting spirit arena is about to start. For the few after-dinner performances on Douluo continent, there is no need to elaborate on how popular the business of the fighting spirit arena is. At this moment, the entrance of the big fighting spirit arena is almost full of pedestrians, and Zhao Yulan and the other two, each with exaggerated chest muscles, are being watched by everyone at the entrance of the big fighting spirit arena, where people come and go. What's wrong with you guys? Why are you standing there? Flender frowned and asked. Everyone. Don't dare to move. Don't dare to move. They obviously noticed that the attention of others has shifted to them. At this time, the same question came to their minds. What should I do? Should I answer Dean Flender's words? Should I answer him? Or pretend that I didn't hear it? Or just pretend that I don't know them and turn around and leave? But after thinking about it, they all gave up the idea of pretending not to know them. After all, greeting them now would only make people around them look like a social idiot, and it would be a mild social idiot, because their chest muscles were not exaggerated. If they pretended not to know them, the consequences would be much more serious than social idiot. Dean, Teacher Zhao, Master. Everyone greeted them, and their expressions were very unnatural. What's wrong with you? Yu Xiaogang asked. What's with your expressions? Zhao Wuji asked. After all, Daimyo Bei was still known as Day Boss, so he was the first to ask. Dean, have you been working out recently? Flanders was speechless. Why is this question again? Daimyo Bei, what do you want to say? Yeah, don't waste time, hurry up and sign up, the fighting spirit is about to start. After Yu Xiaogang finished speaking, Zhao Yulan and the other two turned around and walked into the big fighting spirit arena. No, everyone wanted to stop them, but it was too late. Zhao Yulan and the other two had already strode in under their desperate gazes. Everyone looked at each other and followed him in helplessly. Zhang Tianyu was so happy in his heart. You should be glad that the Shrek team has not been formed yet, otherwise it would be even more embarrassing if others knew that these three big-chested men were the leaders of the Shrek team. Along the way, Zhao Yulan and the other two attracted countless people's attention. Everyone looked at them with eyes full of various inexplicable expressions and emotions. Why do I feel a little bit wrong today? Zhao Wuji asked in a low voice. What's wrong? Flanders asked. Look at these people around. Why do they all seem to be looking at us? Zhao Wuji glanced around, and the other two also glanced around, and found that as expected, the people around were basically all looking at them, and their eyes were very weird. Anyone who sees three ugly men with different looks, but with majestic peaks, that are not inferior to the top prostitutes in the brothel, will basically show this weird expression. Especially Yu Xiaogang, the ugliest one, was walking in the front. Duang. Duang. It also beat in rhythm with his walking movements. If this scene happened to a beautiful woman with a sweet appearance, it would definitely make countless men drool. But this scene happened to the ugly man Yu Xiaogang. It would only make people feel horrified. Flanders also noticed something was wrong at this time. Yeah, this is not right. Don't worry about it. Yu Xiaogang, who was used to big scenes, said calmly, if they like to watch, let them watch, as long as it doesn't affect our purpose. Flanders and Zhao Wuji thought that they certainly understood this truth, but being stared at by such eyes, it would be like a thorn in the back, like a fishbone stuck in the throat, like sitting on pins and needles. Gritting their teeth and keeping a calm demeanor, they came to the service desk. The front desk waitress at the service desk raised her head and was stunned when she saw the figures of the three people. Then she looked up and was stunned when she saw the faces of the three people. What the hell? Exclamation mark. I thought there were 3 big X beauties, but they turned out to be 3 big X hunks? Are these 3 people monsters? What kind of breed is this? Exclamation mark. Come here, why are you standing so far away? Flanders looked back at Daimyo Bei and the others and said. Everyone in Shrek was numb. He walked to the 3 of them and completed their respective registrations. When walking towards the competition arena, Mahanjan couldn't help it and said, Dean, there is a problem with your body now. Can't you feel it yourself? Flanders looked at him. What's the problem? It's It's the same problem as the master before. As he said that, Mahanjan pointed to his chest muscles. Flanders said calmly, I know, there was a problem before, but it has been solved. Ah. Solved. Mahanjan looked at Flanders' chest muscles in confusion and said, no. Before Mahanjan could elaborate, a notice came from the announcer. In the next game, please invite Evil Fire Phoenix to the number 9 ring to participate in the fighting spirit. Mahanjan was speechless. So soon, teacher. I'll go first. Your problem is not solved. After that, Mahanjan didn't care to say more and left quickly. And the others also left one after another, because they had to participate in their own fighting spirits. Only Xiao Yulan and the other two were left in the viewing area, looking at each other. Not solved. Flanders frowned. What does he mean by not solved? It means literally, right? Xiao Wuji looked at Flanders with some doubts, but I think you are very normal now, not big at all. Could it be that Hanjin is teasing me? Flanders looked in the direction where Mahanjan left. It should be. It shouldn't be. At this time, Xiao Wuji finally understood something. We all know that child. He doesn't have the courage to tease us. So Flanders, your problem should not be solved. That's not right. If it's not solved, I may not notice it, but you can notice it, right? Flanders asked. Xiao Wuji's face turned a little pale. Then there is only one possibility. What? Seeing his expression, Flanders' heart was a little hanging. Xiao Wuji looked back and forth between him and Yu Xiaogang, and said, the three of us are not normal now. As soon as these words came out, Flanders and Yu Xiaogang were shocked. All three are abnormal? Exclamation mark. Only when we are all abnormal, we will not notice that there is something wrong with ourselves and others. Xiao Wuji said, this can also explain why these children are so abnormal today, and why those people look at us with that kind of eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 112. There are distinctions between noble and humble lives. Flanders and Yu Xiaogang were both a little confused. If what Xiao Wuji said was true, then everything that happened tonight could be explained. No way. How could it be that all three of us are in trouble? As he said that, Flanders stretched out his hand to Xiao Wuji and Yu Xiaogang, but they were all affected by Invincible and could not perceive the status of themselves and other people who were also affected. So when Flanders reached out to touch, he could only touch the air. Maybe it's really like you said, we are all in trouble now. Flanders retracted his hand. His face was very ugly. But, why? Yu Xiaogang asked, why is it like this? If it's as Teacher Xiao said, Flanders, you helped me vent my anger, so I returned to normal, but you developed symptoms. But this time, you vented your anger on yourself. Teacher Xiao and I didn't touch you the whole time. Then why not only did your symptoms reappear, but both of us also showed symptoms? Flanders was very confused. You ask me, who should I ask? How would I know? Xiao Wuji said, could it be that the rule of this symptom is that if someone vents his anger on himself, it will be transmitted to the people around him at the same time? Yu Xiaogang and Flanders were both stunned, and then nodded in unison. It's possible. Flanders thought carefully about what happened before and after, went over every detail, and then said, I'm sure this is the case. So, this symptom can't be solved by ourselves. We have to let others help solve it. Yu Xiaogang was speechless, but who will have nothing better to do to help us solve it? Once they help, although we can return to normal, they will have symptoms. At this time, Xiao Wuji slapped his thigh. His eyes lit up. I know what to do. Yu Xiaogang and Flanders looked at him at the same time. Xiao Wuji said, why do we have to ask men for help? This sentence instantly awakened Yu Xiaogang and Flanders, and they both slapped their thighs. Yes. They are all stuck in a fixed mindset. Why do we have to ask men for help? Why do we have to think about asking Dame Yubei and others for help? Isn't it better to just ask women for help? How simple. There are not many women who want to make their mountains more majestic. Let them take action, which can not only solve their troubles, but also make them plump. They will definitely be happy. After all, in this world, there is no technology that can plump, and in history, there are soul skills that can make women bigger, but there is only one recorded, and it has long been buried in the dust. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go to the brothels. Flanders waved his hand. Wait a minute. Yu Xiaogang raised his hand to stop him. If our symptoms are really obvious now, then if we go to a brothel, won't it attract a lot of attention? Do we still want to save our reputation? After these words, Flanders and Xiao Wuji calmed down. Walking from Flanders' shop to here, they had to endure so many weird looks along the way. It was already socially dead enough. If they went to a brothel again, damn it, top social death. What should we do then? Xiao Wuji asked. Yu Xiaogang stopped talking, and after hesitating for a few seconds, he continued, as a teacher, it is very dirty and impolite to talk about students' figures without permission, but now the situation is special, so I will say it directly. Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang's figures are not conspicuous. If you give them a chance, maybe they will be willing to help. Flanders and Xiao Wuji nodded. That makes sense. Although Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang are both good looking, their figures are indeed not as good as those of the domineering Zhu Xiuking. It is not necessary to ask them to help, but if there is such an opportunity, maybe you can ask them first. As for whether to help, let them decide for themselves. All they have to do is to use a sharp object to prick the chest muscles of Xiao Yulan and the other two to release the gas. No matter from which angle you look at it, they don't seem to suffer any loss. However, after the three of them thought silently for a while, Yu Xiaogang was the first to shake his head and said, forget it. We don't know what will happen if the symptom continues. If they explode and die, it will harm them. But we have to solve this symptom now. If we don't solve it, it will cause trouble to the children. So, Flanders and Xiao Wuji looked at Yu Xiaogang. Yu Xiaogang's eyes gradually became hard. Go to the brothel. Xiao Wuji and Flanders were both stunned. Just now he said that he didn't know if he would explode and die in the end, and then he said he wanted to go to the brothel. Aren't the lives of the girls in the brothel lives? Those who achieve great things don't care about trivial matters. Yu Xiaogang said, this trouble must be solved. You don't want to be a monster that bears other people's strange eyes all your life, do you? You don't want to explode and die in the end, do you? Okay, let's go now without delay. Flanders said. But you have to change your clothes, preferably a very wide robe that can cover your face. Xiao Wuji said. Xiao Yulan and the other two were not good people. After a brief thought, they abandoned the idea that the lives of the prostitutes are also lives. People are born with noble and humble status. Although the lives of the prostitutes are also lives, it is a pity that they are not as precious as their lives. Moreover, the death by exploding is just their guess, and it is not necessarily true. If it does not explode, they will get a hot body for nothing. Isn't it beautiful? Yu Xiaogang took out a few robes from the storage soul guide and put them on the three people, then quickly left the big fighting spirit field and went straight to the prostitutes. It happened that Zhang Tianyu's fighting spirit was also over at this time. After receiving the prompt of the live point map, looking at the map, Xiao Yulan and the other two running wildly towards the prostitutes, Zhang Tianyu had a blank expression on his face and laughed in his heart. It seems that they finally found a solution. Alas, I didn't expect to find out now that I really overestimated them. It just so happened that this prop was also tired of playing. After they solved the trouble of Invincible, they would give Yu Xiaogang a whole new life. As for whether the item, Invincible, will eventually cause a person to explode and die, the answer is no. Under its effect, it will stop expanding when it reaches a certain size, and will never endanger life. Non-lethal is a common attribute of almost all cheating items. This item is really fun, Zhang Tianyu said in his heart. I can give it to Xiao Wu, Ning Rangrang and Hulina in the future. What about Zhu Xiuking and Liu Erlang? The system asked. Based on their foundation, this item shouldn't work, right? If it works again, someone will die. Chapter 113 New Pendant, Oscar. About 2 hours later, everyone had completed the fighting spirit and gathered at the gate of the fighting spirit arena. Xiao Yulan and the other two also completed the plan of releasing the gas. and returned to the fighting spirit arena with ease, and met the Shrek people at the gate. Seeing that the three had returned to normal, the Shrek people were all surprised. "Dean, teacher, are you back to normal?" Dame Bay asked. Zhao Yulan and the other two looked at each other, and Flanders said, "It seems that it is true. That's right, now we have completely returned to normal." However, the Shrek people did not seem to be very happy. Dean, are you sure you have completely returned to normal this time?" Oscar asked cautiously. Zhao Yulan and the other two were silent for 2 seconds. They naturally understood why Oscar asked this. Zhao Wuji said, "Well, this time it is really completely back to normal." Flanders said, "Don't worry, it will never be transmitted to you. There is no need to beat around the bush with these little guys. Since you already understand what they want to say, just give them a direct answer that will reassure them." After hearing what Flanders said, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the problem had really been solved this time. In fact, what really annoyed Dame Yubei and others was not only the symptoms, but also their attitude towards the symptoms. Obviously, others could see that there was something wrong with their bodies, but they themselves seemed not to realize it. Dame Yubei and others thought that it might be because they did not realize it. Therefore, if Dame Yubei and others also had this situation, then for them who valued face very much, the degree of social death would be off the charts. "Okay, you don't have to think too much. Now go back and rest. Rest well and strive to win again tomorrow." After solving the problem, Flanders was in a good mood and laughed. Everyone nodded and walked towards the hotel. Reminder, activate the task, better you deserve better treatment. Task target, harm Tang San. Tang San can't just become bald, he needs some better treatment. Task reward, soul level +1, reward point +300. Great, I finally waited for another task to harm Tang San. Tang San, I can't wait. After parting with Zhao Yulan and returning to the hotel, the atmosphere returned to its former peace and tranquility. After Dame Yubei and ZHU Zuking broke up, they untied their knots and were no longer as cold as before. Dame Yubei finally liberated his nature again, so he left the hotel with Mahanjan tonight, and his whereabouts were unknown. In fact, you don't have to guess, given the nature of these two people, where else can they go, if not to the brothel? But Zhang Tianyu was a little confused. Mahanjan is no longer interested in women, so why does he still go to the brothel? Including the last time when the plot of encountering unhappiness was triggered. After a brief thought, he understood that Mahanjan was probably going to count ducks. Good guy, counting ducks is okay. The system complained. Come on, come and count. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. What's wrong? Can't it be? Can't Mahanjan have a little childlike innocence? Zhang Tianyu asked back, if you think even this is unhealthy, then I don't know how dirty your heart is. Female teenager, said the system. Alas, Galeo Dao and Mahanjan are out playing again. Tang San was already in meditation in the room. Oscar said with some envy, it's a pity that my physical condition is special, otherwise I would definitely go with them. What's wrong? Can't hold it in? Zhang Tianyu asked. Oscar shrugged. He actually had a bit of a broken pot in his mind now, because he already knew that there was probably no hope for him to pursue Rangrong, but he was very open-minded. If he couldn't pursue the little princess of the Seven Treasures glazed tile sect, he could still pursue the boar of the Xiandao royal family, or the boar of the Xingluo royal family. If that didn't work, he could just make do with the princesses in the brothels. After all, they were all princesses. Oscar wasn't picky. I really can't see through you two. Oscar looked at Tang San and Zhang Tianyu and asked seriously, we are both in the prime of our youth. How do you two hold back without doing anything every day? I don't have to hold back, I have Menyeran. Just don't think about it. Zhang Tianyu said, there are many meaningful things in life, and matters between men and women are just one of them. Oscar, I'm not saying anything bad about you, but men should have pursuits, and can't always think about the things in their lower body. My pursuit is cultivation, and after cultivation, I do something I like. Oscar chuckled, leaned close to Zhang Tianyu and whispered, I think Asen is just a monk, and he has no interest in that kind of thing. Why don't we go and have some fun? Zhang Tianyu looked at him, don't give me that, I read the spring and autumn annals. Ah. What is the spring and autumn annals? Oscar was stunned, then smirked and said, hey Xiaogang, you may not know the joy of that kind of thing, so you are dismissive. If you go with me once and know the mystery, you will definitely want to go every day in the future. Zhang Tianyu showed a playful and teasing expression. Little Ao, who are you looking down on? Although I haven't experienced it, I also roughly understand what's going on. To be honest, I'm not much less interested in girls than you, but the difference between us is that my upper body controls my lower body, and it may be the other way around for you. Oscar was upset. Okay, you're noble, you're great, and I'm just a stinky hooligan. Okay. He was really upset because he really wanted to play with Dame Yubei and Mahanjan. When Zhang Xiaogang and the others didn't come, the three of them were frequent visitors to the brothel. After Zhang Xiaogang and the others came, because they had to act in front of Zhu Xiuking and Ning Rangrong, Dame Yubei and Oscar acted like well-behaved, pure and innocent boys from then on. Now that he and Ning Rangrong have no chance, he has to show his true colors. Originally, he could let Zhang Xiaogang inject a trace of death energy into his body and then go out to play. However, injecting death energy directly would cause too much damage to his body. After these days of experiments, he could clearly feel that the speed of his life energy consumption was about 3 or 4 times that of not injecting death energy. In other words, if he could live for 10 years in the range of Huang Quan's black death energy, then if he injected death energy, he could only live for 2 or 3 years. And every time he injected death energy, the speed of life energy loss would be faster than the last time. So now, Oscar is almost tied to Zhang Xiaogang, and dare not act alone easily. Chapter 114 Life and Death are Fate. Therefore, he wanted to persuade Zhang Xiaogang to go to the brothel with him, but Zhang Xiaogang refused to agree, so he could only go to bed. For him, the meaning of life is only 3, practice, pick up girls and sleep. Looking at Tang San sitting cross-legged on the bed, practicing calmly, Zhang Xiaogang also turned over and went to bed. You can't be impatient to trick Tang San. You have to do it, like you did this time, without anyone noticing, and do it quietly. This is the best way to hide your whereabouts and prevent others from suspecting. In the middle of the night, Zhang Xiaogang woke up. The reason is simple. He had a dream that is not suitable for children. Alas, he just had a few days of fun with Meng Yiren. Why did he still have such a dream? TSK. Well, I can only say that being young is good. Looking around the room, Tang San had finished his practice and was sleeping on the bed while Oscar was snoring like a pig. Zhang Xiaogang went to the bathroom to wash his face, then opened the door and walked out of the room. As soon as he walked out of the door, he saw a figure by the railing at the door of the girl's room next to him. He turned around and saw that this beautiful and powerful figure, who else could it be but Zhu Xiuking? When he looked at Zhu Xiuking also looked at him. Zhang Xiaogang asked in a low voice, what? Can't sleep? Zhu Xiuking nodded silently, and then after a few seconds of silence, she stretched out her finger and pointed to the top of her head. Zhang Xiaogang looked up and saw the roof of the hotel. Zhu Xiuking jumped lightly and floated onto the roof. Zhang Xiaogang asked the system to scan the girls' rooms. Xiao and Ning Rangrong were sleeping like pigs, so Zhang Xiaogang also flew to the roof silently. On the roof, the night breeze blew gently, and the unique spice scent of Soto City floated from the brightly lit West City night market in the distance, where there was a picture of fireworks on Earth. Remember that time in the college? Zhu Xiuking asked softly. Oh, I remember. Zhang Xiaogang said. The house collapsed. Zhu Xiuking couldn't help but chuckle, and a happy smile from the heart appeared on her fair little face. Then there was a trace of loneliness in her eyes. She sighed and said, it's been a long time since then. Zhang Xiaogang looked at her, not knowing what she meant. She also looked at Zhang Xiaogang. Her eyes seemed to have thousands of words, and then said, it's been a long time before I finally have the opportunity to sit with you and chat while looking at the moon. Zhang Xiaogang said, don't say that. It makes me sound like a busy person with a lot of things to do every day. Zhu Xiuking looked at the brightly lit night market in the distance and asked, can you walk with me? Zhang Xiaogang nodded, sure. I just happen to be free and have nothing to do. At the same time, He muttered in his heart, damn, why do I have a sense of deja vu from my previous life? In my previous life, I often went to the night market at night. Could this life have the same plotline as the previous life? No, it shouldn't happen. They didn't meet Xiaogang and Leo in this life, and they also did a very secretive job in killing Douluo, so it shouldn't trigger the plot of Ningrangrang was attacked at night. Zhu Zuking suddenly asked with a naughty expression at this time, so, do you need me to wake up Xiao Wu? Zhang Tianyu waved his hand. Forget it, if I wake her up, she will kill me. Then aren't you afraid that she will misunderstand? Zhu Zuking asked again. Here it comes, the fatal question is here again. Zhu Zuking, this little girl, really likes to ask fatal questions. How to answer this question? Not afraid of Xiao Wu's misunderstanding? Then Zhang Tianyu is a scumbag. Now Zhu Zuking has just completely severed her relationship with Dame Yu Bei, so she may also break up with Zhang Tianyu directly. Afraid of Xiao Wu's misunderstanding? Then don't go, and don't be alone with Zhu Zuking in the future. So it seems that no matter how you answer, it's wrong. But who is Zhang Tianyu? He is a super scumbag. No, a super love saint. He was familiar with the complete guide to picking up girls, and was familiar with every kind of rhetoric to deal with girls. He could use it easily. So he looked at Zhu Zuking with an extremely sincere look and said seriously, then I won't go. Good fellow. The system was convinced. Is this your rhetoric to deal with girls? If you don't go, they won't care about you going. And you said you won't go, isn't it? Just because you are afraid that Xiao Wu will misunderstand? Just wait and see. Zhang Tianyu laughed in his heart. This is the difference between LV1 and LV3. Ah. The system didn't understand. When Zhu Zuking heard that Zhang Tianyu was not going, a trace of loneliness flashed in her eyes, and she said, sure enough, I'd better go wake her up. Zhang Tianyu asked, do you want to wake her up? Zhu Zuking looked up at him. Her eyes flickered a little, but she didn't answer. Fuck. This question was kicked back to her again. The system realized that Zhang Tianyu's rhetoric was not simple. It turned out that Zhang Tianyu's rhetoric was not just one or two sentences, but a whole set. Not going is just the opening move of this rhetoric. Zhang Tianyu continued, I don't know what you are thinking now, but I can see that you probably just want to go out for a walk with me. If I'm being sentimental, please forgive me. Zhu Zuking lowered her head and was silent for a few seconds, then shook her head gently. You are not being sentimental. Maybe I'm the one who is being sentimental. Let's go. I'll go for a walk with you. Zhang Tianyu smiled. It's just going for a walk with you. Is it a big crime? Zhu Zuking raised her head and looked at Zhang Tianyu. After staring into Zhang Tianyu's eyes for a few seconds, her eyes also had a spirit, and she nodded. Thank you. Zhang Tianyu waved his hand, and two illusory swords appeared out of thin air. The two stepped on them, and flew straight to the night market. As for Huang Quan's body, he was left in the hotel room by Zhang Tianyu to suppress Oscar's hair growth. He didn't want to inject too much death energy into Oscar. After all, if he killed him early, he would have one less toy. Walking with Zhu Zuking in the night market full of fireworks, Zhang Tianyu felt as if he had returned to his previous life. In the previous life, the two of them also walked on the bustling streets like this and witnessed all kinds of life. You know, sometimes I wish I was not a soul master, but an ordinary person. Zhu Zuking said. Then I can find someone I don't hate in a remote village and live a quiet and peaceful life. Zhang Tianyu asked. Zhu Zuking nodded. Zhang Tianyu said, but what if danger comes one day? Life and death are all destiny. Zhu Zuking replied. Then freedom or bondage is also destiny? Zhang Tianyu asked. If it is destiny, how can we resist it? The only way is to become stronger and stronger. Zhu Zuking said. Then this contradicts your original idea. Zhang Tianyu smiled. Zhu Zuking was stunned, then laughed a little self-deprecatingly, and asked, what kind of life do you most yearn for? Chapter 115 The Lonely Dog System. The life I most yearn for. Zhang Tianyu looked into the distance and said, there are several houses and a big yard. Zhu Zuking smiled indifferently. Isn't this very different from my idea? Zhang Tianyu went on. Then the courtyard wall is 5 meters high and 3 meters thick, poured with concrete and steel bars. There is barbed wire on the top of the wall and electricity. There is a watchtower at each corner of the yard, with guards and snipers standing guard on it. Xiaogang. System. Good fellow. Do you like prison? Zhang Tianyu continued. You can grow vegetables and food in the yard. There is a fish pond next to the vegetable field. The dirty water in the fish pond can be used to irrigate the vegetable field through a circulation system. The clean water after circulation and filtration returns to the fish pond again to complete ecological symbiosis. On the other side of the vegetable field, you can open up a medicinal garden to grow Chinese herbal medicine for emergency use. The backyard is opened up with a breeding fence where you can raise chickens, pigs, sheep and other livestock. There are hounds in the yard to guard the house. There are workshops to make and repair weapons and tools, and there are special solar and wind power generation facilities. Of course, there must be a well to provide clean and safe groundwater sources. Xiaogang was stunned. What the hell is this talking about? Why does it seem that I don't understand it? The system understood it and complained. Why don't you just say that you want a doomsday survival base? Xiaogang doesn't understand what I said. She doesn't understand what you said. Zhang Tianyu looked at Xiaogang and she was really confused. To put it bluntly, I just want to live a life where I don't have to worry about safety issues. I can live in seclusion and I can be self-sufficient and free. Xiaogang finally understood what he said. Her expression gradually returned to normal and she said, in that case, in fact, the lives we dream of are not much different, but you think more thoroughly and in more detail than I do. Zhang Tianyu smiled and said, so, if there is a chance, let's live the life we long for together in the future? Xiaogang blushed, and although she didn't agree, she didn't refuse either. Zhang Tianyu smiled in his heart. Xiaogang didn't explicitly refuse, nor did she change the subject. This is a good sign. He has taken another step forward. He is getting closer and closer to winning her over. Hint, activate the task, is life for yearning or for show? Task objective, have an intimate contact with Xiaogang, including but not limited to hugging, kissing, and more advanced behaviors. Basic task rewards, soul level +1, reward points +100. The more intimate the behavior, the higher the reward. If you directly carry out the great harmony of life, you will get an additional high level or above soul guide and a soul bone of random quality. Zhang Tianyu's eyes lit up. Damn, she is worthy of being the main character. I can see the difference in treatment at once. After dealing with Meng Yiren, I only get levels and reward points. After dealing with Xiaogang, I get both soul bones and soul guides. Does every main female character get this treatment? Also, can I get a set of soul bones? Yes, the 3 beauties of Shrek, the 3 beauties of the Spirit Hall, Liu Erlong, Poseidon, etc. These main female characters will all get rewards of the same level. The soul bone rewards are completely random. You may get a piece of junk soul bone that no one would even look at, or you may directly get a set of soul bones. The chances of getting high level soul bones and low level soul bones are exactly the same. Zhang Tianyu became excited. In this life, the things he was most looking forward to were completing the spirit halls, Bibidong and Kan Ringsu are online at the same time, achievement, and Master and Apprentice Rice Bowl achievement. He also wanted to try to challenge the Spirit Hall 3 Missing 1 and Happy Reunion achievements. The system said, the achievement, 3 Spirit Halls Missing 1, should not be difficult for you, but the achievement, Happy Ending, is almost impossible to achieve because Bibidong and Xiao Wu are mortal enemies, and it is really unlikely that you can see these two people online at the same time. And these two are the main female characters in the main storyline. Without any one of them, the achievement, Happy Ending, cannot be completed. Okay, then let it go when the time comes. Now we still have to start from the present and get this chick in front of us. Are you hungry? Want to eat something? The night market here is not much different from the one on Earth. It mainly sells some small gadgets and various snacks and drinks. Smelling the fragrance, Zhang Tianyu has been a little hungry for a long time. It's not good to eat midnight snacks but it's okay to eat a little occasionally. No. Zhu King declined. Do you want to maintain your figure? Actually, your figure is already perfect. It's okay to have some midnight snacks. After all, we consume so much energy on weekdays. Zhang Tianyu said with a smile as he bought some snacks from the snack stand next to him. Hearing Zhang Tianyu say, your figure is already perfect, Zhu King's face turned red again. You don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. We consume a lot of energy on weekdays. Zhang Tianyu said as he handed a snack to Zhu King. However, he saw Zhu King raise her head and look at him with a slightly resentful look. Zhang Tianyu smiled. I'm not talking nonsense. Your figure is really perfect. Really? Zhu King's eyes flashed with joy. I thought you would like Xiao Wu's figure more. Really? Zhu King originally wanted to starve herself so that her figure would become smaller and closer to Xiao Wu's. I want to tell the truth, Zhang Tianyu said while eating. Compared to Xiao Wu, I prefer your figure. Girls should look like girls. Zhu King was immediately happy. So he likes my figure more? Great. This way I don't have to change anything. More importantly, doesn't this mean that I'm more attractive than Xiao Wu? For Zhang Tianyu, the appearance, waist, and legs are all accessories. The most important thing is big. It must be big. Zhu King is taller. While walking and eating, and chatting, the relationship between the two people is heating up quickly. For two people who already have a good impression of each other, in this environment and atmosphere, the heating of their feelings is an inevitable result. Soon, an hour passed, the night market ended, the originally lively streets gradually became deserted, the lights gradually faded, and the night fell. The two walked quietly towards the hotel. The closer they walked, the closer the distance between them was. Finally, their arms finally touched each other. At this time, the Gao Dao system popped up again as Zhang Tianyu expected, and said, Master Host, take this opportunity to quickly pull her into your arms and chew her. Then you can achieve the harmony of life naturally. Chapter 116. Work hard for 3 missing 1. Zhang Tianyu was speechless about this nascent system. The two of them just touched each other's arms, and they didn't even complete the tricky actions of finger testing and holding hands. And you want to pull me into your arms and chew on me? Damn, if you are so impatient, why don't you just let me become a god at level 100, break through the air and ascend, and then chop off the heads of those gods who are hanging around? No matter what you do, you have to follow a process, right? Now the relationship between the two is still in the mutual testing stage with a high degree of favorability. At this stage, you must go through enough testing to fully understand your true feelings and intentions for each other and the other party for you. If you don't complete this stage, the consequences will be terrible. Why do many seemingly happy couples become chaotic after getting married? It is because they did not really complete this stage. If they did not complete it, both parties would have wrong feelings and misunderstandings about each other. Under the influence of such illusions and misunderstandings, a little thing will also evolve into a world war and eventually break up completely. Of course, it is still far from the point of marriage, but there must be some temptation. This stage of temptation is also for girls to be fully prepared to face the next stage. As for men, there is no need to make any psychological preparations, just prepare safety measures. Finally, as the two of them walked with their arms swinging, their fingers finally touched once. Zhu King shrank back, as if she had been electrocuted, but soon returned to her original position. Although Zhu King has a cold face all day long and looks like an iceberg beauty, in fact, she is the most silly and sweet female character in Shrek. As the number of times their fingers touched each other increased, Zhu King finally seemed to be accustomed to this kind of touch, and even began to take the initiative to attack. A few times, when their fingers touched each other, Zhang Tianyu could even feel Zhu King's fingers hooking his fingers. This girl is very active. But think about it, Dame Bay can linger in the flowers all day long, and do some love things with different beauties. Why should she keep her body pure all day long? Zhu King's idea is indeed like this. She didn't have anyone she liked before. Dame Bay, whom she once liked, also became strange to her and disgusted her. That love was gradually eroded by the disgust in her heart. Therefore, she protected herself and made herself look extremely cold and kept others away with coldness. Now, she has someone she really likes. Why can't she take the initiative? Regarding Zhu Yuking's initiative, Zhang Tianyu still has to pretend to be innocent, but he can't pretend like he did in front of Meng Yiren. He has to pretend appropriately, but he must also give Zhu Yuking a certain response appropriately. This is a technical job. After feeling the entanglement of fingers several times, Zhang Tianyu looked at Zhu Yuking a little shyly. When he found that Zhu Yuking was also looking at him, he quickly retracted his gaze. Zhu Yuking looked at his shy look and felt sweet in her heart. But soon, she felt his fingers entangled with her several times. This was a response. Zhu Yuking understood it instantly and then became bolder. When Zhang Tianyu hooked her fingers with his fingers again, she quickly grabbed Zhang Tianyu's hand with her backhand. Zhang Tianyu suddenly shuddered and blurted out in a low voice, "What are you doing?" Ouch. Zhu Yuking couldn't help but be amused by him, but didn't let go of her hand, but clasped his fingers tightly with her fingers, as if she was afraid of losing him. Zhang Tianyu stopped and looked at her, and she also stopped at the same time, turned her head, and looked directly into Zhang Tianyu's eyes without fear. The next second, Zhang Tianyu naturally gave her a loving hug, and she also naturally threw herself into Zhang Tianyu's arms. The two of them hugged each other silently in this silent night. It has come to this step, so you can try to take the next step. So Zhang Tianyu slowly leaned over and lowered his head, and Zhu Yuking felt his movement and obviously hesitated for a moment, but then slowly raised her head, facing Zhang Tianyu, and then slowly closed her eyes, facing this beautiful face and this tempting red lips. What's the point of being polite? Just bite it. Zhang Tianyu didn't say anything, lowered his head and bit it. The good news is that today I took a big step and successfully kissed Zhu Yuking. But the bad news is that today I have reached my limit, and it is impossible to take the next step. I can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. It is already very good to have the current result. If I rush to take the next step, it will only backfire. If Zhu Yuking thinks that Zhang Tianyu is just an LSP who is greedy for her body, then Zhang Tianyu will be completely out of the game. When they returned to the downstairs of the hotel, Zhang Tianyu said, "You go back first. I'll go shopping again." Zhu Yuking naturally understood what he meant. A hint of loss flashed in her eyes, but she returned to normal in an instant. She was content to have such an intimate contact tonight. And she also knew that, even if she could be with Zhang Tianyu in the end, her position would definitely be after Zhao. She was a sensible girl, and would not fight for those unimportant positions. As long as she could be with Zhang Tianyu, she would be content. After Zhu Yuking returned to the room, she soon fell silent. The system also gave the scan results. Ningrangrong, Xiao Wu, Oscar and Tang San were still sleeping like pigs. Zhang Tianyu was relieved and tiptoed back to the room. After a simple wash, he went to bed. This sleep was really awesome, because I had another good dream. The heroine in the dream this time was none other than Zhu Yuking. However, after waking up in the morning, looking at the empty bed beside him, and looking at Oscar who was snoring loudly, and Tang San who had gone out to practice, Zhang Tianyu felt lost. He had to speed up the progress. He had to speed up the progress and get Zhu Yuking quickly. The next step was to deal with Ningrangrong, and then find a way to make these two people accept the two-person trip. Then it was to deal with Xiao Wu, and then the Shrek 3 beauties, 3 missing 1, would be just around the corner. This time, Zhang Tianyu's plan is to complete the 3 missing 1 of the Shrek 3 beauties before going to Xiandao City and meeting Liu Erlang. To achieve this goal, he will speed up the progress from today. After washing up, he walked out of the room, looked at the rising sun, and breathed in the cool air in the morning comfortably. Then the door of the girls' room next to him opened, and 3 neatly dressed girls came out. The morning sun shone on them, giving them a layer of gold around them, as if they were as fresh and beautiful as the goddesses in the myth. Chapter 117 Xiao Wu's bold idea. After breakfast, Zhang Tianyu returned to the room. Oscar was still sleeping. Tang San took a short rest and started to practice. Ever since he used Huan Quan's Black Death Key to help Oscar suppress hair growth, Oscar has been able to sleep better. He basically sleeps except for lunch, dinner, and fighting spirits. There are also many tricks related to sleeping, which are: tip, activate the task, don't think this is none of your business, task target, trick Oscar, no limit on the method, no limit on the means, no limit on the consequences, but it is best not to cause his death. Task reward, soul level +1, reward point +100. Tip, congratulations. Is life for yearning or for show? Task completed. Because the host has completed a certain level of intimacy, the task reward is obtained. Soul level +3, reward point +500. On this basis, an additional reward of a low-grade soul guide is being drawn. The drawing is complete and has been distributed to the item column. Zhang Tianyu was stunned. Wow. This system is good. Now I have a better understanding with him. When he was thinking about making a prop that could trick Oscar when he was sleeping, the system immediately issued a task to trick him. TSK, TSK, TSK. This wave of cooperation can be very good. ZHU Zuking's task reward also made him a little overjoyed. He thought that only after completing the Great Harmony of Life would he get extra soul bones and soul guides as rewards, but he didn't expect that he could get extra soul guides just by completing Boo. Although it is inferior, it is produced by the system, and inferior soul guides are also very good. He opened the inventory with anticipation. A pair of round lens glasses lay quietly in the inventory. Click to view. Sunny Pony, glasses type soul guide, which can be effective when worn. Effect, it can effectively resist strong light, and is completely immune to the strong light effect of any soul skills performed by soul masters of Soul King and below. The strong light effect, attached to the soul skills performed by soul masters of Soul Emperor and above, is weakened by 50%. It can be completely windproof. After wearing it, any wind type soul skills or natural wind cannot affect the eye's 10% probability of seeing through any illusion and illusion. Zhang Tianyu didn't quite understand the property of resisting strong light. After all, the introduction was a bit confusing. So he walked out of the room. Came outside, looked around to see if there was anyone around, took out his glasses, put them on, and looked at the sun. Girl. After wearing these glasses, you can look directly at the sun at 11 o'clock in the morning. In simple terms, when others use soul skills and flashes of light, he doesn't have to avoid it, and can look directly at the light. What a use. Zhang Tianyu put it back into the inventory with an expressionless face. I'd better wait for a chance to give it to a girl in the future. He still likes girls wearing glasses, especially just when he was about to go back to use a prop for Oscar, two figures appeared on the stairs. Zhang Tianyu turned around and saw that it was Mahanjan and anew who had been out at the brothel all night and had not returned. Hey, Leo Ma, Leo Day, you're back. The two were in high spirits and said with a smile, we're back. Zhang Tianyu was also infected by their cheerful smiles and asked with a smile, how was last night? Was everything going well? Damn. Mahanjan and anew couldn't help but laugh and curse. What are you talking about? How can this thing not go smoothly? After Mahanjan returned to the room, Zhang Tianyu quickly found anew and asked in a low voice, how did Leo Ma solve it last night? Has his taste changed back now? The boys in Shrek all knew about the conflicts between Mahanjan and Tang San. Zhang Tianyu didn't know whether the girls knew about this, but they should have heard of it. Hearing Zhang Tianyu's question, anew quietly glanced into the room and found that Mahanjan was washing his face, so he whispered, the fat man didn't go to the brothel last night, but went to the roast duck restaurant. Oh my god, roast duck restaurant. The system almost lived in Bangbu. This name is really amazing. How can I look at roast duck in the future, and then you solve it in the roast duck restaurant? Zhang Tianyu asked. anew nodded. I didn't go, but judging from Fatty's condition, he should be fine. Fuck, that's good. Zhang Tianyu said, anyway, it's better than exploding and dying. anew nodded, then looked in the direction of the girls' room, and whispered to Zhang Tianyu, hey, are you together tonight? Ah. Zhang Tianyu was stunned. Me? Nonsense. Who else can I ask if not you? Forget it. I'm not interested. Youth is restless. Xiaogang, aren't you restless? Dame Yu Bei asked. Among the Shrek boys, only you and Tang San are chased all day long. There's no need. Really, you have to enjoy yourself when you are young. I say, old day, are you throwing in the towel? Zhang Xiaogang frowned. You can't do this. What else can I do? Dame Yu Bei shrugged. I have been in this state for a long time, and I'm used to it. No matter what the future holds, at least I'm living the life I want every minute and every second now. Zhang Xiaogang was silent for a few seconds and said, okay, then I won't persuade you anymore. Just make up your mind. Dame Yu Bei smiled and asked, really not going? Let me tell you, you are so handsome. If you go, those girls will definitely be happy. Before Zhang Xiaogang could speak, a cold voice came from behind him. Who is happy? Zhang Xiaogang and Dame Yu Bei immediately shuddered and looked back. They found that it was Xiao Wu standing behind them with a cold face. It seemed that she had heard what Dame Yu Bei said just now. No one. No one. Dame Yu Bei shrank his neck and said with a wry smile. I tell you, Dame Yu Bei, if you want to play, just go and play by yourself. Don't teach Xiaogang bad things. I can still call you day boss. If you dare to teach Xiaogang bad things, I will beat you up. Dame Yu Bei immediately raised his hands. Okay. Sister Xiao, I know, I was wrong. I will never dare to do it again. After that, he fled the scene as quickly as a gust of wind. HMPH. You rascal. Xiao Wu walked to Zhang Xiaogang, looked at Dame Yu Bei's back, and cursed in a low voice. After that, she turned to look at Zhang Xiaogang, half worried and half serious, and said, Xiaogang, you can't learn bad things like him. Don't worry, I won't. Zhang Xiaogang smiled. Looking at Zhang Xiaogangs smile, Xiao Wu felt a little relieved, but soon she realized something. Dame Yu Bei was right. Now everyone is at the age of youth and restlessness, and Zhang Xiaogang is so outstanding. He can restrain himself, but can he always be so restrained? If not, then he. Thinking of this, Xiao Wu had a bold idea in her mind. Chapter 118, Prop Doll Dream. Chapter 118 Props Matryoshka Dream. If she has decided to be with Zhang Xiaogang in the future, she might as well be with him now. No. She is still too young. Well, actually, she is not that young anymore. Didn't Oscar say that his parents already had him when they were their age? Although no one knows who his parents are, but since he said so, everyone just believed it. Besides, in Douluo continent, they are indeed old enough to get married and have children, so no. Still no. Even if she has made up her mind, even if she wants to accomplish some major life events with Zhang Xiaogang, how should she express it? How should she take action? How should she do it so as not to appear abrupt and excessive? So as to look very natural? If she is too proactive, will Zhang Xiaogang misunderstand that she is not a serious and good girl? Zhang Xiaogang looked at her with a puzzled look as she stood there in a daze. Not only was she in a daze, but her facial expressions kept changing. So he couldn't help but ask, hey, Xiao Wu? Xiao Wu? Ah. Xiao Wu woke up and looked at Zhang Xiaogangs handsome face, so close to her. Her heartbeat accelerated. What are you thinking about? Why are you so absorbed? Nothing, Xiao Wu said in a panic. I'm just thinking about what to eat for lunch. Zhang Xiaogang pinched his chin, raised his eyebrows, and looked at her in disbelief. Damn, you're just thinking about what to eat for lunch? But your expression looks like you're thinking about who to kill at noon. Oh, I'm really not lying to you. Don't look at me like that anymore. Xiao Wu turned around and didn't look at him in shame. Zhang Xiaogang. 6. The more you do this, the more suspicious you will be, okay? Then, Ning Rangrong, Zhu Xiuking, Tang San, and Oscar, who was sleepy, all walked out of the room. Zhang Xiaogang called out 6 again. This group of people, apart from anything else, all of them are very accurate in timing their lunch. Just when Zhang Xiaogang was about to call Ma Hangjin and Dame Yu Bei to eat together, Xiao Wu grabbed his hand and said, don't call them. Just looking at them makes me angry. We are all classmates. This is not good. Zhang Tianyu had just finished speaking when Damu Bei's head popped out of the window and said, "Well, Tianyu, go have lunch. Fatty and I had already eaten when we came here. Okay, have a good rest." Zhang Tianyu finished speaking and everyone went downstairs. While eating, Oscar smelled the fragrance of the food and finally woke up. He started to eat up the food without having eaten breakfast. While he was busy eating, Zhang Tianyu flicked his finger in his direction without leaving any trace. The prop was used successfully. After dinner, Oscar returned to the room. As usual, Oscar stretched his body and continued to sleep. Zhang Tianyu glanced at him and continued to watch the movie with his eyes closed. Go to sleep, and you will get enough sleep. Oscar opened his eyes suddenly and found that it was already late outside. He got up with a start. "Oh, I overslept again. This damn assassin didn't even wake me up." At this moment, he suddenly saw a dark figure sitting on the bed beside him. After taking a closer look, he found that it was Tang San, who continued to practice. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. "So you haven't left yet? I thought you all left and left me here alone." After saying that, seeing that Tang San didn't respond, he knew that Tang San was probably in a trance, so he didn't bother Tang San anymore. He got up, washed his face, and prepared to find someone else. But when he went out, he found that, although it was already late outside, and the light was dim, but the street lights were not on as usual, but it was pitch black. What's even more weird is that there was no sound at all. Usually at this time, the Fighting Spirit Arena is about to open for business, and there will be some small vendors and mobile snack stalls hawking their wares around, as well as the voices of various pedestrians. Why is it so abnormal tonight, with no sound at all? He realized something was wrong and quickly ran to the room of Damu Bei and Mahanjan, but was shocked to find that the two of them were also sitting on the bed and practicing. Damn. When did you two become so hardworking? After saying that, he came to the door of the girl's room and knocked on the door. There was no response, so he returned to his room. Only then did he find that Zhang Tianyu was also sitting there practicing. "Tianyu, how come even you?" Oscar finally felt a little panic in his heart. Something is wrong. This must be wrong. He quickly ran downstairs, but found that the entire hotel was empty except for them. When he ran out of the hotel, the streets were also dark and empty. At this moment, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He didn't believe in evil and ran all the way to the door of the Great Fighting Soul Arena. There was still no one around the Great Fighting Soul Arena. At this moment, the door was open, but it was pitch black inside, as terrifying as a huge mouth of the abyss. Just as he was looking at the gate in panic, two lights suddenly lit up in the dark gate, like two eyes. He screamed in fear and turned around and ran. He ran all the way back to the hotel room, looking at Tang San and Zhang Tianyu, who were still motionless. He finally confirmed that, although he didn't know the reason, it seemed that they were the only ones left in the world at this moment. Dang. 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 Footsteps suddenly sounded outside the door. Oscar was so scared that he kept backing away. He accidentally bumped into Tang San, who was sitting on the bed. He trembled all over and quickly turned around and said, "I'm sorry, Tang San, I didn't mean it." Before he finished speaking, he was so scared by the scene in front of him that he froze in place. After he accidentally bumped into Tang San, Tang San's head fell directly from his neck and fell to the ground with a thud. It rolled around and rolled to his feet, and at the same time, its two eyes suddenly opened and stared at him. "Ah!" Oscar screamed and sat up. Tang San and Zhang Tianyu were startled and turned to look at him. Tang San asked, "What happened?" Oscar glanced around and then relaxed. It turned out to be a dream. "Damn. I had a nightmare," Oscar said with a gasp. Tang San and Zhang Tianyu immediately became interested. "What nightmare?" "I don't remember it clearly, but I can remember that at the end, I saw your head fell to the ground." "Ah San." Thinking of the scene in the dream, Oscar was still a little scared. Tang San and Zhang Tianyu were stunned, and then they laughed. Oscar said, "I know this is childish, but it's really scary." Tang San laughed and said, "Did I dream that my head fell to the ground? Is it like this?" Oscar was stunned, and then Tang San's head fell to the ground in his dull eyes, rolled in front of him, stared at him and asked, "Is it like this?" "Ah!" Oscar screamed and woke up again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 119, A Simple Estrangement Plan. Tang San and Zhang Tianyu were startled by his shout, "What's wrong, Xiaogang?" Tang San walked up to Oscar and asked with concern, but Oscar was so scared that he quickly rolled and crawled away from Tang San. "Don't come over. Don't come over." Tang San was stunned. "Xiaogang, what's wrong with you?" Zhang Tianyu also asked, "What's wrong with you suddenly? Are you having a nightmare?" Hearing Zhang Tianyu's voice, Oscar seemed to have found his backbone and quickly jumped out of bed and ran to Zhang Tianyu. "I just had a very scary dream." Zhang Tianyu looked disgusted. "Damn, it's just a nightmare. Is it a big deal? You asked Asan not to come over. What's wrong? Did Asan punch you in the dream?" "Tianyu, you don't know. What I had was not an ordinary dream. It's a nightmare. How can it be ordinary?" Zhang Tianyu said. "No, listen to me," Oscar said. "I had two dreams intertwined. I thought I woke up, but I was still in the dream." "Oh." Zhang Tianyu and Tang San were both interested. "Is there such a strange thing? Tell me in detail." Oscar told the two dreams intertwined, and then said with a look of fear, "Actually, I wouldn't be that scared, but at that time I thought I woke up, you know? But I saw that scene again, and I almost peed myself." Tang San asked, "You said I fell off in the dream?" Oscar nodded, "Yes. Damn, I was scared to death." "Then, did you fall off like this?" As he said, Tang San reached out to touch his head. This sentence and this action scared Oscar so much that he screamed like a woman seeing a cockroach. Ah. Damn. Stop screaming. Asan is teasing you." Zhang Tianyu whispered. Oscar stopped screaming and opened his eyes to look at Tang San. Sure enough, Tang San just put his hand on his chin and his head was still on his neck. "Xiaogang, you are so timid." Tang San laughed. Oscar was so angry. "Damn it. Asan, if you do this again, I will be angry. I'm not timid. I'm already scared, but you scare me like this." Okay, I won't scare you." Tang San laughed. However, at this time, Oscar suddenly felt that something was wrong, but he didn't realize what was wrong for a while. Just when he was thinking carefully and observing what was wrong, Tang San continued to sit cross-legged on the bed and said, "Then I'd better continue to practice." Oscar, who saw this scene, immediately felt the cold air rising from the soles of his feet, rushing straight to the top of his head and heart. "Asan, what's wrong with me?" Tang San looked at him and asked curiously. Oscar was so scared that his legs were weak and he fell to the ground with a thud and a warm current surged from his lower body. He was scared to pee because at this moment he clearly saw that Tang San was looking at him straight, but he was sitting cross-legged on the bed and his body was facing the back. Under his face was his back. It was as if his head had turned 180 degrees. "What's wrong? Why do you seem to be frightened to pee?" Tang San showed a weird smile. "Am I that scary?" Oscar let out a miserable howl, and then once again, he suddenly opened his eyes. 3 consecutive nightmares. Oscar was now sweaty all over, and he was frightened to pee in his dream. When he woke up, he found that he was really frightened to pee. The bed was already wet. He suddenly thought of something, and immediately scanned the room, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. Tang San and Zhang Tianyu were not there. He was the only one in the room. Moreover, it was not yet evening, and the afternoon sun shone into the room, very bright and warm. He finally sang a breath. Damn, it seems that he finally woke up. Too scary. Too weird. It turned out to be 3 consecutive nightmares. I have never had such a bizarre and weird dream in my life. After a while, he planned to get out of bed to wash his face and change his bedding. Because he was scared to pee, his quilt was very wet at the moment. Although I don't know where they went, I must change my bedding before they come back. Otherwise they will definitely laugh at me, Oscar muttered to himself while lifting the quilt. But the moment he lifted the quilt, an extremely strong smell of blood rushed directly to his face. Then Oscar was frightened and stood there. It turned out that the reason why the quilt was so wet was not because he peed, but because the quilt was full of blood. In addition to blood, there was also Tang San's head. The next second, Tang San's eyes suddenly opened. "You said my head fell off, is that true?" Oscar sat up suddenly and opened his eyes, still screaming, "Hey, hey, hey, stop screaming." Zhang Tianyu's voice sounded beside him, and then he stopped screaming. He looked to the side. This time Tang San was not there, only Zhang Tianyu was there. He immediately rolled out of the bed and hugged Zhang Tianyu's thigh. "Tianyu, save me, help me. Fuck, don't scare me, what's wrong with you?" Zhang Tianyu asked in a daze. "Did you have a nightmare?" "Yes, I had a nightmare, and it was a very weird nightmare. It was several serial nightmares connected together." "Save me. Calm down first." Zhang Tianyu immediately comforted him. "It's just a dream. It's okay. Why are you talking about saving me? You scared me." No, you don't know, Tianyu. I have never had such a weird dream in my life. Oscar said, "Every time I wake up, I think I have woken up, but in fact I'm still in the dream, still in the nightmare." Okay, calm down. It's okay now. What did you dream about? Relax and tell me." Oscar calmed down and told the dream again. Zhang Tianyu listened quietly and asked, "Then how do you want me to help you?" Oscar was confused. He just subconsciously asked Zhang Tianyu for help, but he didn't know how to ask Zhang Tianyu to help or how to save him. In this case of a nightmare, how can others help? After thinking about it, Oscar asked, "Where is Tang San?" "He went to the roof." Zhang Tianyu said, "You know he likes to go to the roof. Then help me stop him later. I'm scared when I see him now." Oscar said, "Okay, I'll help you block him." Zhang Tianyu said with a bit of a smile. Seeing Zhang Tianyu couldn't help laughing, Oscar also relaxed. But at this moment, Tang San walked in. Oscar was immediately scared and hid behind Zhang Tianyu, grabbing his sleeve. "Tianyu, help me block him." "Who are you blocking for you?" The owner of the sleeve spoke, but Oscar was shocked. This was Tang San's voice. Chapter 120. Listen to me, I'm sorry. Oscar's heart was beating wildly, and his whole body was shaking. "No. I was clearly holding Zhang Tianyu's sleeve. How could I hear Tang San's voice?" He looked up and was frightened out of his wits. At some point, Zhang Tianyu in front of him had disappeared and was replaced by Tang San, and the one who walked in from the door was also Tang San. How could there be two Tang Sans at the same time? Exclamation mark. Before Oscar could figure out this problem, the two Tang Sans asked at the same time with a weird smile, "You said my head fell off, is it like this?" Seeing that the two Tang Sans twisted their heads off at the same time, Oscar finally couldn't bear the pressure and fainted. Although Zhang Tianyu didn't know what Oscar's dream was like at this time, he could tell from his shaking body, frowning brows, and the cold sweat on his forehead, that his dream must be very exciting. And he was the only one who noticed this scene. Tang San, who was concentrating on practicing, had already entered a state of concentration and didn't notice Oscar's tiny movements at all. In the martial arts and immortal cultivation world, entering a state of meditation is very strict. After entering a state of meditation, one must not be disturbed, otherwise it is very easy to go crazy. Although entering a state of meditation in the Douluo world is not so strict, one must not be easily disturbed during meditation. Otherwise, even if one does not go crazy, it will cause damage and harm to the body and soul power. Tang San has completely entered a state of meditation. If he is disturbed at this moment, he will definitely be very happy. The system gave the scan result. Okay. Zhang Tianyu temporarily suspended the effect of Matryoshka dream without making a sound. A few seconds later, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of Tang San's mouth. He had completely entered into a state of concentration and was fully engaged in cultivation. Suddenly, Oscar's shout startled him. The meridians in his body immediately became agitated, the blood and ki flowed backwards, and his soul power and wild. Fortunately, he had the experience of 2 lifetimes of cultivation. He quickly stabilized his mind and tried his best to control and calm his meridians and soul power. When Oscar's scream ended, Tang San slowly ended his practice and opened his eyes. Fuck. Xiaogang, what happened to you? Tang San just opened his eyes and saw Dame Yubei, Mahanjan and Zhang Tianyu all standing next to Oscar. Mahanjan asked, "That shout just now scared me. Damn it, Oscar, are you trying to kill me and Asen?" Zhang Tianyu, with a pale face, covered his chest and said with a painful expression, "I was meditating and practicing, and you shouted and almost scared me to death. Do you know, Xiaogang, what happened?" As he spoke, Tang San also walked over. Everyone was stunned when they saw Tang San's appearance. Zhang Tianyu said, "Damn, Asen, are you okay? It seems that you are more seriously affected than me." Tang San wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his face a little ugly. Really, Tang San was very kind not to give Oscar the whole way to die. "No big problem, it's stable now," Tang San replied. Before he could continue speaking, Oscar suddenly screamed, like he saw a ghost again, pointing at Tang San and saying in horror, "Stay away from me. Stay away from me. Get out of here, everyone." Tang San's face became even worse. "Damn, you almost made me go crazy with your scream, and now you want me to get out of here? You're going to die." Dame Yubei hurriedly said, "Xiaogang, calm down, look carefully, that's our San. Our classmate brother." "Yeah, Xiaogang, what's wrong with you?" Mahanjan also asked hurriedly. "Are you having a nightmare?" Zhang Tianyu asked. Oscar ignored the others, knelt down in front of Tang San with a plop, and cried loudly, I beg you not to twist my head off. Everyone. What the hell?" Tang San's face was full of confusion. "What are you talking about?" At this time, there was a knock on the door. Zhang Tianyu walked over to open the door. Standing outside the door were the three beauties of Shrek. The three girls all had curious faces. Xiaowu asked, "What happened?" "Oscar must have had a nightmare," Zhang Tianyu said. "It's nothing serious, we'll deal with it." "Okay." After speaking, Zhang Tianyu closed the door. Oscar was still crying and shouting. One moment he told Tang San to get out of the way, the farther the better. Tang San's face was full of death. The next moment he knelt down and begged Tang San not to twist his head off, crying very miserably, and Dame Yubei and Mahanjan on the side kept comforting and persuading, but it seemed that they were of no use. Zhang Tianyu couldn't bear it anymore. Strode over and swung his arm. "Damn Chusheng, what happened to you?" Bang! A big slap hit Oscar in the face. The room immediately became quiet. Oscar stopped crying and looked at everyone with a dull expression. Zhang Tianyu swung his arm and slapped him again. This slap was even harder. Oscar spun 5 times in a row. His eyes rolled back and he couldn't stand steadily. He fell to the ground with a thud. After a few seconds, his eyes finally became clear. What happened to me?" Seeing that he woke up, Zhang Tianyu was the first to rush over. "Fuck. You finally woke up. You scared us to death just now." Mahanjan said, Yeah, you were crying and shouting there just now, and you even cursed our San, which scared us all." Oscar remembered then, and immediately stood up in panic and said, "I had a lot of nightmares. Every time I thought I woke up, I was actually still in a dream. Am I still in a dream now?" Dame Yubei and Mahanjan looked painful. Zhang Tianyu asked, "I slapped you twice just now. Does your face hurt?" Oscar touched his face and gasped in pain. "Hiss, it hurts." "Then it wasn't a dream," Zhang Tianyu said. He didn't spare Oscar's face with those 2 slaps just now. They were real slaps, so Oscar's face was swollen on both sides. Everyone felt pain just by looking at it. Oscar immediately held Zhang Tianyu's hand excitedly. "I'm awake. I finally woke up. Thank you, Tianyu. Thank you for waking me up. We are brothers. Why are you being polite? Look, I beat his face into a pig's head, and he still has to thank us." He. Mahanjan asked, "Then why did you scold Asen just now? And you told Asen not to twist his head off. What do you mean?" Oscar's face suddenly showed a horrified expression again. "I have had many serial nightmares. In every dream, Tang San twisted his own head off. Everyone. Tang San, listen to me. You are despicable." Chapter 121 A Better You deserves better treatment. After listening to Oscar's narration, everyone didn't know what kind of expression to show. Originally, everyone thought it was just a nightmare. Who in the world doesn't have nightmares? so there's no need to make a fuss. But after listening, they felt that this nightmare was indeed not right. Everyone has nightmares, but they have never experienced continuous nightmares, one after another, like a chain of traps, and each nightmare wakes up and seamlessly falls into another nightmare. However, everyone still didn't think much about it. Although continuous nightmares are bizarre and weird, the world is so big that there are all kinds of things. As long as Oscar doesn't suffer any substantial harm, it's not a big deal. After confirming that he had woken up, and with the comfort of everyone, Oscar's emotions finally calmed down. Congratulations. Don't think this is nothing for you. Mission completed. Get the mission reward. Soul level +1. Reward points +100. Zhang Tianyu smiled in his heart. The level has reached 49, and he will soon be a Soul King. When he reaches the Soul King, and gets the 5th soul skill, it will be more fun. But he soon calmed down. It seemed that he couldn't act recklessly after getting the 5th soul skill, because if he used the 5th soul skill when he was tricking someone, it would be equivalent to exposing his identity as the mastermind behind the scenes. But after all, one more soul skill means one more possibility, and he was still looking forward to the future. After Oscar was dealt with, it was time to deal with Tang San. After completing the task of tricking Tang San, he would be able to reach level 50. Tang San, oh Tang San, do you think that being smooth and hairless is the end? No. This is just the beginning. Don't wait, use the props directly. Hint, use successfully. After a few days of peace, at dusk that day, everyone gathered at the gate of the Great Fighting Soul Arena, and after completing the registration, they walked towards their respective arenas. The opponent Tang San faced this time was a weapon spirit war soul master with the spirit hunting blade. The spirit hunting blade was very sharp and somewhat restrained Tang San's blue-silver grass. However, the bad news was that Tang San's fighting skills and combat experience were very good. Not only did he make up for the disadvantages in spirit, but he also turned defeat into victory and defeated the opponent. But the good news was that Tang San's clothes were also cut by the sharp hunting blade. Now Tang San was no longer the poor Tang San who could only sew and patch before. So after the clothes were torn, he decisively threw them away and took out a new set of clothes from the storage belt to change into. However, this new set of clothes, he looked at it from left to right and felt awkward, and then he realized that these replacement clothes were bought about half a year ago. In the past 6 months, he has grown a lot, so the clothes seem a little small and awkward. Well, it seems that I have to buy some new clothes tomorrow, Tang San said to himself. During the double battle, Oscar's condition was very bad, and his reaction and speed were a little behind. It was not his fault. His body had been severely damaged by Huangquan's Black Death energy. He had been tortured by nightmares from time to time these days. Under the double blow, it would be strange if Oscar's condition was not bad. Because of his poor condition, he was quickly sent off the stage by his opponent. No matter how strong Damubei was, he could not handle it alone. He could not deal with 2 level 35 War Soul Masters at the same time, and he quickly gave up. I'm sorry, Boss Day, I performed too badly today. After stepping down, Oscar said with some annoyance, it's all a small matter. Damubei patted his shoulder to comfort him. Your health is a big deal. I feel that you have been getting weaker and weaker during this period of time. I can't help it. Oscar shook his head miserably. If I don't do this, I will become a hairy monster in a minute. The Black Death energy has a great negative impact and destructive power on living beings. Sensing Oscar's physical condition through Huangquan, Zhang Tianyu knew that it was time to let Oscar take a break, otherwise he might really play him to death. Although I hate him, if I hate him, I have to torture him for a while longer, instead of letting him get rid of it early. The King of Hell has a tattoo of my host on his body, the system said. How dare you say that about me? Zhang Tianyu rolled his eyes. In his previous life, when he first met the dog system said in person, you can't let Yu Xiaogang die so quickly, you have to pit him for at least 20 years. Now this dog system is talking about him. Tut tut tut, this dog system is the least qualified to talk about him. On the other side, Tang San and Mahanjan's group finally won after a hard fight. Mahanjan is just a 20 level idiot after all. Tang San is really exhausted to lead him to score. Basically, all the opponents he matched were 2 soul masters, and he often encountered 237 to 8 level 1s. In order to win, Tang San often even used hidden weapons. Just like today's game, he was forced to use plum blossom needles again, hitting the opponent's hands and feet, disrupting the opponent's rhythm, and barely won. Otherwise, Mahanjan would have been sent away long ago. Ha. Cool. We won again. Ha ha ha. After stepping down, Mahanjan, who didn't realize he was a jerk at all and felt he was pretty awesome, laughed out loud as if he had contributed to the victory of the battle just now. Tang San looked at him helplessly. Really, if it weren't for the fact that his teacher Yu Xiaogang and Mahanjan's teacher Flanders were good brothers and good comrades, he wouldn't want to take this jerk with him. Too jerk. But San, your clothes don't seem right. Are they a little too small? Mahanjan asked. Yes, Tang San said, the clothes I wore before were cut by my opponent during a one-on-one duel. This is what I bought and put in my belt. It's too small. I have to buy a new one tomorrow. Mahanjan suddenly approached him with a strange light in his eyes. I'll go with you? Tang San was immediately frightened and trembled all over. He quickly stepped back and away from Mahanjan. Forget it. I'll go by myself. I'll go with you. We are brothers. Why be polite? No need. After saying this stiffly, Tang San quickened his pace. Now he didn't dare to be alone with Mahanjan. Really, Mahanjan often gave him the feeling of a beast about to go berserk. When they arrived at the meeting place, the others had already finished the game and were waiting again. Seeing them coming and saying hello, Tang San also breathed a sigh of relief. He finally joined everyone and didn't have to worry about Mahanjan suddenly going berserk. At this time, everyone also found that Tang San's clothes were a little tight, so they asked about it. Tang San answered truthfully and everyone nodded in understanding. No one noticed that a gleam of light flashed in Zhang Tianyu's eyes. Chapter 120. To see the combination props again. Hehe. Tang San. Tang San. I have waited for several days and finally waited for this moment. The props I use for you are about to take effect. Hehehe. The system also made a meaningless laugh, and Zhang Tianyu couldn't help but shudder. Really, the laughter of the system made him, a pervert, feel perverted. Returning to the hotel, there was no conversation all night. The next day, after finishing a morning of practice, Tang San had lunch, rested for a while, and then left the hotel to go out to buy clothes. Zhang Tianyu sometimes had to admire this guy. Although this guy's not a good thing, his perseverance is really worth learning. Tang San has developed a habit over the years. If there is nothing special or important in the morning, he must practice, and he can rest or relax in the afternoon. Even if he wants to go out to buy clothes today, he must complete the morning practice before going. Zhang Tianyu couldn't help but sigh, thinking back to when I was at the Earth University. If I could also develop this habit, I'm afraid I would have been a postdoctoral fellow long ago. Ahem. Of course, these are not important now. What is important is when Tang San comes back later. Hehehe. By then, I hope you won't be too surprised. What Zhang Tianyu didn't expect was that Tang San was out for the whole afternoon. When it was almost time to gather in the evening, he didn't see Tang San return to the hotel. Why don't we stop waiting? Maybe Asen has already gone to the big fighting spirit arena to gather. Damu Bei said. On the live point map, he hasn't been there yet, but from his movement trajectory, he is heading in the direction of the fighting spirit arena. Zhang Tianyu thought for a while and said, okay, then let's go to the fighting spirit arena to take a look. If he hasn't arrived yet, then I'll come back to look for him. I'm fast in flying swords. Everyone nodded. The group arrived at the gate of the big fighting spirit arena, but found that Tang San was not there. Zhang Tianyu opened the live point map in his mind. Tang San was almost there. That's right, he will appear in a dozen seconds. In a dozen seconds, he will appear in front of everyone. Asen isn't here, where could he go? Mahanjan asked worriedly. Now among all the Shrek people, the one who really cares about Tang San the most is Mahanjan. I'll go to the hotel to check, Zhang Tianyu said, and just as he was about to take off on his sword, Damu Bei said, wait and see, maybe he'll be here later. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Wu suddenly pointed in another direction and said, look, isn't that Asen? Everyone turned their heads to look, and then they were all stunned. Under the street light, a bald boy wearing a gorgeous pink skirt and a skirt appeared in front of everyone. This bald head was shiny and reflected the light of the street lamp. That's right. It was Tang San. That's right. Tang San was wearing a skirt at the moment. And it was pink. Beautiful. Macho pink. Hehehe. The system laughed wildly. Moreover, Tang San not only wore a pink skirt, but also walked like a little girl, twisting and turning. Of course, he walked twisting and turning not because he was deliberately walking coquettishly, but because he was wearing high heels shoes. Because he was not used to it, he walked twisting and turning. Everyone in Shrek was completely confused. Xiao Wuji, Yu Xiaogang and Flanders could not believe their eyes. Then, Xiao Wuji and Flanders all looked at Yu Xiaogang with a weird look. Tang San is your student. Why does your student wear women's clothes? And walk so shyly? Exclamation mark. Not only everyone in Shrek, but even passers-by were all dumbfounded. The skirt Tang San was wearing at the moment was very beautiful. If it was worn by a cute and beautiful girl, it would definitely fascinate a group of men. However, the person wearing this skirt now is a boy, and he is a bald boy. And this bald head is particularly bright. Ah. What an eye-catching hell picture. What evil did I do in my last life? What sin did I commit in this life, to have to see such an eye-catching scene? Click click. With the sound of high heels stepping on the ground, Tang San finally walked in front of everyone. Hey, what's wrong with you? A coquettish voice sounded, and the first thing he said was the old clamp. That's right. The old friend. Maximum level clamp prop is back online. Regardless of gender, age, as long as you use it, your words will become old clamps, and if you can't clamp someone to death, you can get a full refund. Tang San's clamp sound instantly gave everyone goosebumps. Damu Bei and Oscar even wanted to vomit. Even Zhang Tianyu, who had a strong psychological endurance and was mentally prepared, almost vomited when he saw this scene and heard this sound. And Tang San put on a skirt and high heels because of another prop, cross-dresser. The effect of this item is that once used, the affected person will be affected by the confusion of consciousness effect and will no longer buy and wear men's clothing, but will be addicted to women's clothing and cannot extricate themselves. Of course, it cannot be used on women. The cross-dresser item is also a new item that was refreshed after this rebirth. When Zhang Tianyu saw this item, he was thinking, would this item be very cool when combined with a clip? As expected, the combination of the cross-dresser item and the maximum level clip item is really fierce and invincible. The lethality is extremely huge, and everyone present was shocked. You, Tang San, what the hell are you doing? Flanders couldn't help but questioned. Huh, Dean, what are you talking about? What the hell is going on? Tang San asked innocently. Everyone, you, damn, this is really difficult. I really want to vomit. Asan, don't be like this. Are you stimulated by something? Zhang Tianyu asked. Ah, Tianyu? What are you talking about? I'm not provoked. Tang San said with a puzzled look. Everyone. Flanders gritted his teeth, trembling all over, turned his neck stiffly to look at Xiao Wuji and whispered word by word, "Where's my knife?" Xiao Wuji said, "I'll go get it." Yu Xiaogang raised his hand to stop them and asked Tang San, "Xiao-san, the game is about to start. Don't make such jokes." Tang San was even more confused, blinking his big eyes and asked, "Teacher, what are you talking about? What's the joke? What joke am I making?" At this moment, the veins on the foreheads of the Shrek men burst. The girls also had a chill on their faces. If disgust has levels, then Tang San's disgust at this moment is definitely at the Euclidean level. If you do this again, I can't help but hit someone. Damu Bei gritted his teeth and said, "Ah, what happened to me?" Just as Tang San finished speaking, Damu Bei's fist hit him. Chapter 123 The Truly Unsolvable Special Effect. At any time and any place, Zhang Tianyu is trustworthy and reliable. When Damu Bei threw a lightning-fast punch at Tang San, no one reacted. Only Zhang Tianyu raised his hand at the critical moment. A black light suddenly appeared. Everyone felt a gust of wind blowing in front of them. Huang Quan blocked Tang San. Bang! Damu Bei's fist hit Huang Quan's sword ridge fiercely. Huang Quan remained motionless and unharmed. Damu Bei groaned in pain. and stepped back 7 or 8 steps. Zhang Tianyu looked at Dame Yubei with a painful face. No, Leo Day, we are all classmates. It's just a small matter. You really did it. Dame Yubei looked at him. Tianyu, don't stop me. I really can't stand it. It's too difficult. Zhang Tianyu was helpless. How could I stop you? I was clearly saving you. Because you don't know that Tang Heo is watching in secret. If you really beat Tang San for such a small matter, Tang Heo will definitely not let you go. Even though he is a titled Douluo, and for the sake of Tang San's future relationship with his classmates, he will not come out to teach you a lesson openly, but he is a titled Douluo, and he will secretly trip you up and make you suffer some losses, and you can't defend yourself at all. San suddenly became like this. There must be something wrong. As classmates and comrades, we should find out what's going on. How can we just do it right away? After listening to Zhang Tianyu's advice, everyone calmed down. Yes, although Tang San's behavior is very disgusting, making perverts call him perverted, and even successfully replaced Mahanjan as the most perverted and disgusting person in Shrek, but everyone is classmates and comrades, and as a whole, a team. This sentence can't just be said, so the priority now must be to find out what happened and why Tang San suddenly became like this. San, what the hell are you doing? Why are you dressed like this? Zhang Tianyu asked. And why do you speak in that tone? Xiao Wu asked. I, a girl, won't speak in that tone. Really, even if Xiao Wu's tone becomes a little bit tight after she starts to charm, but it's not that tight. Tang San's tone can be said to be the most tight male tone in Douluo. Even Ju Douluo would admit defeat and call it a bunker. Huh. What am I wearing? Tang San said, and even turned around in the original way. The skirt fluttered under his rotation. This scene is really too spooky. Really, if it was the 3 beauties of Shrek wearing such a skirt and turning around like this, it would definitely be a beautiful sight. But when the bald Tang San did this, it would definitely be a terrifying spooky scene. Don't turn around. The hot-tempered Dame Yubei couldn't help but want to hit someone again. If you have something to say, talk it over. If you have any problems, tell us and we will work together to find a way to help you solve it. Old Day, don't talk for now. That guy, Xiao, take Old Day to the side and calm down first. Zhang Tianyu ordered. Okay. Come on, Boss Day, calm down, calm down. Oscar quickly took Dame Yubei to the side. Zhao Yulin and the other 2 standing aside saw all of this and nodded secretly. Well, among all the students now, although Dame Yubei is the oldest, his somewhat irritable temper and the kind of tyranny that only belongs to the superior are the indelible shortcomings of his nature. This shortcoming makes him unsuitable to be the leader of Shrek, a new team. In contrast, Zhang Tianyu, who is talented, strong, good-looking, smart, able to stay calm at all times, handle affairs from an objective perspective, and not easily affected by the outside world's emotions and judgment, is more suitable to be a leader. The 3 are also more and more satisfied with Zhang Tianyu, and think that it is really great for Shrek to have such a child to join. In the original plot, the person who can get such a high evaluation is definitely Tang San, but now looking at Tang San again, what the hell is this? Asan, can you talk to us in your normal tone and accent? Zhang Tianyu asked again. Huh? Aren't I talking to you in my normal tone and accent? Tang San asked back in confusion. Also, why did Dame Yubei want to hit me just now? Huh? Veins appeared on the boys' foreheads again, and even the girls' expressions became gradually ferocious. It's too clip. Really, it's not that everyone has a poor tolerance or a bad temper, but this kind of clip sound really makes people angry and makes people want to beat someone up. The hidden attribute of this item, maximum level clip, is a bit similar to the badmouth capsule that I used for Yu Xiaogang in my previous life. It can secretly stimulate the neurons in the brain that control the anger emotion, making people inexplicably angry and want to beat someone up. After listening to it, the system's second order disease broke out and shouted, "This is Survivor. Survivor, you big-headed ghost." Zhang Tianyu rolled his eyes and complained, "The force is not that strong. At most it just makes people angry, and this anger can be eliminated. That's not bad either." The system chuckled. "As long as it can arouse other people's anger towards them, it's great." I can't listen to it anymore. Zhu Xiaogang said coldly, turned around and walked aside to calm down. Ning Rangrang also left. What the hell are you guys? Tang San was interrupted by Zhang Tianyu before he finished speaking. Asan, don't talk first. Then Zhang Tianyu walked up to Zhao Yulan and said, Teacher, Dean, please watch this. We can't watch a fart. Zhao Wuji said, how do we know what to do? Wait a minute, I find it weird. Flanders said, why is Tang San obviously dressed so strangely? You have pointed out the problem with his clothes, but he refuses to admit it, and the way he speaks and his accent. Yu Xiaogang said. Zhang Tianyu shrugged and spread his hands, looking helpless. If it was according to the routine of the previous life, then after Zhao Yulan and the other two experienced the baptism of Invincible, they should be able to guess that Tang San's current experience is similar to their previous experience, but unfortunately, in addition to the special effect of confusion of consciousness, the cheating props in this life also added a special effect of memory erasure, or more accurately, memory fade. All other people who have experienced the baptism of the cheating props, witnessed and participated in the process of the cheating props harming others. After the prop effect is lifted or disappears, the memory of the experience of this prop infringement will slowly fade with the passage of time, and eventually be hidden deep in the mind. This is the real unsolvable. Chapter 124. Tang San is embarrassed. These memories were not deleted by force, nor did they disappear in the long river of time. It would be simpler if they did so, but it would easily attract the attention of the gods and Douluo's will. Therefore, the system chose a more subtle approach, memory fading. These memories and experiences exist objectively and are still in everyone's mind, but the capacity of the human brain is limited, and everyone is the same. It is impossible to remember everything in detail. Therefore, these memories will be sealed by the brain and then forgotten, just like the insignificant little things that everyone will experience. Even if they encounter similar or even the same things again, this memory will not be activated again. Therefore, at this time, Zhao Yulan and the other two and the Shrek team, including Tang Heo who was observing in secret, have forgotten the Invincible incident that Zhao Yulan and the other two experienced before. Of course, they will not remember that Yu Xiaogang was forced to stand up. However, Yu Xiaogang's hemorrhoids will continue. As for the cause of hemorrhoids, Yu Xiaogang did not delve into it. 9 out of 10 people have hemorrhoids, and it is normal to have hemorrhoids. In addition, most of the bad luck they had experienced in the past caused by the trick props were also forgotten. Of course, not all trick props come with the special effect of memory fading. For example, Oscar farted and caused a fire in the sausage truck, burning all his hair. Oscar still remembers it. Because everyone will experience trivial things like farting, there is no need to forget it through memory fading. In addition, the memory of props with continuous effects will not disappear. For example, Oscar's hair grew wildly, and Tang San had no hair left on his body. Because the effects have lasted until now, everyone still remembers it clearly. Seeing Zhang Tianyu showing a puzzled and helpless expression, Yu Xiaogang walked up to Tang San, looked at Tang San and asked, Xiao-san, I want to ask you, what clothes are you wearing now? Just normal clothes. What's wrong, teacher? Even Yu Xiaogang, who always had a dull expression, couldn't help rolling his eyes after hearing this. I'm not asking you if you are normal or not. I'm asking you now, what type of clothes you are wearing. Tell me. Yu Xiaogang asked seriously. Tang San looked down at his clothes and said, I'm wearing a blue shirt, a pair of dark blue trousers, and the belt you gave me is on my waist. Is there anything wrong with it, teacher? Tang San was talking about the dressing style he usually likes. Under the effect of consciousness confusion of crossdresser, Tang San would regard women's clothing as his favorite clothes. The more coquettish and beautiful the women's clothing is, the more it fits his aesthetic style. Everyone looked at each other. Yu Xiaogang then asked, is there anything wrong with your eyes? Tang San tilted his head in confusion. There's nothing wrong with my eyes. To be honest, he also activated the purple demon pupil, and his eyes emitted a faint purple light. In the field of vision of the purple demon pupil, his clothes did not change at all. What a joke. The effect of my tricking props. How can your little purple demon pupil break it? Then is there nothing wrong with your head? Have you not been attacked by others these days? Flanders asked. Tang San thought about it seriously. No, Flanders couldn't help but take a breath and suppressed his urge to hit someone. Xiao Wuji then asked, then do you think there is something wrong with your speech? Tang San was stunned and then said, no, I don't think so, teacher Xiao. Is it that I speak differently from usual? The veins on the back of Xiao Wuji's hand popped up and then he took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to hit someone. Oscar thought about it and suddenly walked in front of Tang San and said, Asan, I think you are so handsome. Now everyone was stunned and then Tang San showed a look of disgust on his face. Xiao, why do you speak in this way? It's so disgusting, Oscar said. Oh, so you also know that speaking in this way is disgusting? Then why do you still speak in this way? Everyone suddenly realized that Oscar was using actual actions to demonstrate Tang San's way of speaking. Tang San was even more confused. I didn't speak in this way. I feel so disgusting myself. How could I speak in such a disgusting way? Disgusting puff. Damu Bei on the side almost vomited blood. Oscar was also completely speechless. Hey, you can't wake up a person who is pretending to be asleep. Xiao Wu couldn't stand it anymore. You, Asan, don't go too far. Not only are you talking in this way, you are also using repetition of words. Wow, I really can't stand it anymore. Repetition of words? I didn't use repetition of words. Xiao Wu, don't wrongly accuse me. Zhang Tianyu couldn't listen any longer and walked aside to ask Xiao Yulan, Dean, teacher, we don't understand Asan's situation, so are we still going to participate in the soul fighting tonight? Xiao Yulan and the other two looked at each other. All of them were overwhelmed. If this happened on Earth, they would be sent to the hospital for a full body checkup and psychological test in minutes, but there are no such things on Douluo continent. Flanders asked Tang San, are your soul skills and soul power alright? Tang San nodded, no problem. Dean Flanders rolled his eyes wildly. Then you should hurry up and complete the registration for the soul fighting. From now on, Tang San, you are not allowed to say a word, remember? Huh? Why? Tang San looked weird. Don't say it. If I tell you not to, do you want to listen to the dean? Xiao Wuji asked. Tang San said a little aggrievedly, oh, that's fine. What about his clothes? Zhang Tianyu asked, do you have clothes suitable for him? Yu Xiaogang asked. Everyone looked at each other. The three girls definitely didn't have it. Mahanjan, Damu Bei, and Zhang Tianyu were all a bit different in size from Tang San, so their clothes probably wouldn't be suitable. Oscar was the only one who was okay, but Oscar didn't bring any spare clothes. Zhang Tianyu said, I have some new clothes here, let's give them to Asan to try. Zhang Tianyu took out some boys' clothes, but after Tang San saw them, he immediately said, Tianyu, how come you have girls' clothes? Everyone? Is there really something wrong with Tang San's eyes? This is not a girl's clothes, this is my own spare clothes. Zhang Tianyu said, you are talking nonsense, this is obviously a girl's clothes. Zhang Tianyu shook his head helplessly, and Flanders said, then there is no need to change, just leave it like this. Anyway, it is Tang San who is embarrassed, not them. P.S. Don't think I'm long-winded, the properties of the props must be explained clearly, otherwise everyone may be confused when they see it in the future. Chapter 125. Add some more ingredients to Tang San. As expected by everyone, after entering the fighting arena, not long after, Tang San gradually became the focus of everyone's attention. Whispering voices reached everyone's ears. Hey, look at that guy. The bald guy wearing a mask. I remember him. He's very powerful, and he basically wins more than he loses in fighting. The strong men in the fighting arena are basically impressive, and strong men with characteristics like Tang San are even more so. Almost every time, he is a 1-on-2 powerful strength, and most importantly, his shiny bald head, which attracts a lot of attention to him, and also makes many people have a very deep impression of him. Because of this, when he walked into the fighting arena wearing such clothes, he attracted so many eyes so quickly. But why is he wearing a woman's skirt today? And he walks in a twisted way. Yeah, I find it strange too. I remember he's a man. Fuck, is he a pervert? No way. He's just wearing a skirt. Maybe it's just his personal hobby. A grown man who likes to wear skirts. Isn't that a pervert? If that's not a pervert, then as a hot-blooded man, it's definitely not a pervert for me to peek at women taking a bath, because that's also my personal hobby. You're just arguing, aren't you? These whispers could be heard clearly by everyone, so except Zhang Tianyu, everyone else kept a distance from Tang San intentionally or unintentionally. Even with a mask on, it's still a social dead end. Tianyu is still the most loyal. Mahanjan said, at this time, he can still walk with Asen. Yes, Tianyu is really a good brother who can get along well. Oscar also said with emotion. The others looked at the two and expressed their agreement. But even though everyone agreed, they still didn't go forward and walk with the two. Who can resist the sword of social death? It's better to walk slowly and finish the registration quickly and go back after the game. It's normal for young people to be a little thin-skinned, but Zhao Yulan and the other 3 old guys are also walking slowly behind, and they are even slower. There are Dame Yu Bei and others between them, and Tang San and Zhang Tianyu. Tianyu, why are they walking so slowly? Tang San finally noticed the alienation of the crowd and asked curiously. Of course they are afraid that you will implicate them, Zhang Tianyu thought, but since Shrek is a team, a whole, we must share happiness and difficulties. So Zhang Tianyu stopped and turned to look at Dame Yu Bei and others. Hey, skinny old man, let's walk together. Walk faster. Dame Yu Bei and others. Just now I praised Tianyu for being a loyal boy, but he turned around and dragged them into the water. What a damn loyalty. Hey, brother, a cyber blazer. Zhang Tianyu shouted, let's go together. What are you talking about? Everyone was in pain. Why did Zhang Tianyu say something inexplicably? What does this mean? Well, this is not the point. The point is that the attention of the people around them has been transferred to them. They can't hide, even if they want to, so they can only speed up and follow them. Then Zhang Tianyu looked past them and looked at Zhao Yulan and the other 2 behind them. As a result, these 3 old guys were quite cunning. When Zhang Tianyu called Dame Yu Bei and others, they knew they couldn't hide, so they also quickened their pace and walked over here. Zhang Tianyu thought they were very sensible and didn't shout. But unexpectedly, they quickly passed everyone and only whispered when they passed by Zhang Tianyu and others, we'll go to the audience and wait to see your performance. Then they ran away. Damn. Dame Yu Bei and others called him an old fox in their hearts. The old ones are the wisest. He managed to get out of this situation. At this time, Dame Yu Bei was really tired of living in Bengbu and whispered in Zhang Tianyu's ear, this is not a solution. Look at the way people around us look at us. Zhang Tianyu said nonchalantly, so what? Anyway, we are wearing masks, and they can't see through our true faces. What are we afraid of? But Dame Yu Bei was about to say something when he was interrupted by Zhang Tianyu. Besides, Asen is our brother. Do we have to stay away from him just for this? Then what is the point of being a brother? Dame Yu Bei was speechless. The responsibility of being the day boss came to his mind again. Okay, it's just a social death. I'd rather die than my fellow Taoists die. Anyway, the person who will team up with Tang San later is Mahanjan. Finally, they walked to the registration office. The lady at the registration office looked up at Tang San and was stunned on the spot. WTF? Bald head with pink princess dress? Exclamation mark. Is this the new style of dressing popular this year? Exclamation mark. Awesome. Apart from anything else, the courage and shamelessness of putting together such an outfit is enough to astonish people. We need to register. Zhang Tianyu repeated it again, which brought the young lady's attention back to reality. Oh, okay, please show your badge. After completing the registration, the young lady realized that the bald man in the pink princess dress was actually the famous Thousand Hand Shura in the Douluo arena. No wonder he looks so familiar. Good guy, I can't recognize him when he is wearing women's clothes. I originally thought that this Thousand Hand Shura was very powerful and he could always lead the idiots to win the Douluo arena, and he was very expert. But it turned out that experts like to wear women's clothes. Exclamation mark. Thank you. After completing the registration, Tang San forgot Flender's instructions and spoke. This old clamp almost made this knowledgeable female staff vomit on the spot. Imagine a bald man, wearing a women's clothing, snoring with a clip tone. to tell you thank you, but all normal people can't stand it. Okay, let's go. Zhang Tianyu quickly pulled Tang San open. Zhang Tianyu certainly felt the emotions of the people around me. Hey, seeing Tang San and Yu Xiaogang's ugly in the eyes is the most happy thing. For example, how about giving him an angel for a end of this chapter? Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.